Myself and him are in partnership on the Penuel show. We have different visions. He'd like to create a multifaceted channel with different content. So we recently rebranded the channel to Convo so that he can put other stuff there.
Wow.
And the Penuel show is just going to be one of the shows on there. So that's where we are now. But I luckily don't pay because Debza's my mate. And he's
mates like Debza.
He's friends with the owner of Tribal, who also happens to be him. So he put in a good word with himself for me to squat here.
He spoke to management.
Yeah. He spoke to HQ. And so we're here for now. But he's very professional. We're very big on discussing money, and we're very conscious of the costs of the space. We've done costing, specifically because other people have asked how much it would cost to film here. It's very, very expensive, and it's not worth it at all. But again, because he's my mate, I think the Fergusons, when they started filming, were gifted equipment by Mnet. So I'm lucky that Tribal Media House's work is loaning us this equipment like for free for now. But in time, there needs to be compensation, whether it's giving them recognition or whatever. By them, I'm talking about him.
But what's your business model as well? Are you guys going to eventually, do you advertise? Do you have sponsors? Like, how do you keep this going other than doing the right thing? Because it's, I mean, it's important to have the conversations. You're doing the right thing, but how do you keep the lights on? Yeah. So what do you do?
Huh?
Yeah.
Sips tea. No, I'm joking. That thing pisses with Debs off, by the way.
He's joking but not joking.
No, I'm really joking. You know, we have a very deep rooted inferiority complex as black people, to a point where when Mac G on podcast and chill is like, yo, have you seen the Penuel show set up? Yo, the what? And look, it is expensive to be here. But there is no belief that black people and young black people can do it. You listen to Malem and other people look at Cyril and Patrice and like, they are puppets. We generally don't believe that black people can do things on their own. So it's sad. And yes, it's a joke, but I know it pisses with Debs off because he's very pro-black and he's very intentional about what he's building. And when people are going to come and rob us off, we saw you at Business News, this is actually bullshit. You almost don't want to go there. You don't want to be associated so that people are like, oh, these guys are doing their own thing. But there are people that believe me, luckily, when I tell them. And look, there's a portfolio of work. Tribal Media House's work is available on TV. And they are a known production company. And Debza has got there's no weird white person at the back. You can go and do all the deep dive you want. It's just been work. It's just been work. But we don't believe. And maybe one day we will, but currently we're not there. And when you're seen with a white person, unfortunately, it is what it is.
Yeah.
This country is going to believe that there's a white person behind you. In time, Debs is going to decide on the channel. We've had many debates about advertisers. We've been offered money. We're not really happy about some of the ways people are moving. And because he's going to run the channel, he's going to do whatever he thinks is best. I don't want to be involved because we're going to end up fighting, which I don't want. And then with the Penuel show, I'm hoping that he'll allow me to have a license to do what I want on the Penuel show. So whether I want to advertise or not. But if it's the Penuel show on Convoy and it's like, look, part of the terms and conditions to have your show here is for you to put a bottle of Tribal Media House water, then I'll be like, look, if that's the cost of being here, then sure. I'm here for something else. And then we'll see. But we have to have a conversation after this about me building my own studio and whether it will be somewhere else or whether it will be here. Yeah.
I think that's important, guys. I think it's a new industry where young black people get to express themselves. We get to have your views. It's akin to your freedom radio, right? During the apartheid regime, where young people came together, different parts of the diaspora, you know, they went and they made their voices heard. They would print out illegal leaflets and transport them in their boots and underneath the carpet of the car just to keep conversation going and to conscientize people. So for me, you know, that's what's important, you know, being able to discuss blackness, being able to discuss my view on Orania, being able to discuss all these kind of things is how we grow. It's how we increase our capacity to think, which I think is the one thing that Furvu didn't want, which is why he brought in Bantu education. Didn't want to increase our capacity to think and to engage. It's not so much about the content. It's about the ability to expand your mind, to think about other points of view, other philosophies, etc. So when the black man is able to say, let me expand my range of thinking, let me philosophize, let me think of ideology, that's what they fear the most. Because it's not about just what you think, it's about how you think in the process of thinking. So I love podcasts because they give us that opportunity to do that. I mean, I can listen to Paine and then disagree with him till the cows come home. But the fact that I'm engaging with content and unpacking it and putting it back together and finding reasons why I disagree with him, for me, is more valuable than just, I agree, I disagree. So I'm a podcaster doing that for us young people. And I think this is where my view differs slightly from yours. And that you say black people don't believe that we can. I think black people, young black people, have been pushing the envelope from the get-go, and I don't even want to talk about the June 16 youth uprising. I'll take it from Boomshaga. That's my era. That's when I was young. You had these girls in short shorts and gyrating and on stage with long, long hair. And then there's the Rasta guy. And then there's Theo. You know what I mean? And they're pushing the envelope. And they sang a song, Nkosi Africa. That's when we were all still up in our fields, if you remember, about the national anthem. And we were all kumbaya, hold hands, rah, we can do it. Boomshaga yangena ya remixa Nkosi Africa. It was unheard of. Malupaganyisu pondo lwayo. And people were like, hi, you can't go there. This is a sacred song, etc. But they pushed the envelope. I mean, there were talks of this song is going to be banned. The president had to be involved, etc. But that was young people taking their power. That was young people taking their authority. And even today, you see Lama challenges that are on TikTok. I'm not really great on TikTok, guys. You'll forgive me. But you see what young people are doing, how they're taking cultural commodities like song and dance and taking it all over the world. You have a dance tutorial for Ultralabam, or what's the name of that song? It's a dance tutorial. I mean, I saw someone say, first you put your leg to the left, to the right, then you move your arm. I said, they are unpacking a South Africanism. They are looking at what we do and how we do it. It's become a science. Now we just need visionary leadership to tap into that, to say young people are already doing it, to say young people are already creating industry, the new gold, and if we can package it and shape it and own it also, and breed it, it can be one of many streams of income and one of many things that South Africans are known for. Right now, it's just a vibe, just a nice time. You look at, who's doing it well? So-and-so knows how to do it. Penuel, etc. Now it's just fun and games. But if you have a visionary leader, I can look at this thing and say, you know what? We can own this thing. You have your Cirque du Soleil, What makes them any better than other, ballet dancers or circuses, etc. It's because someone said, here's a brand that we can put together and we can market this and take it all over the world and we can own it and we can boss it, right? And for me, that's what we're missing out on. That's what we need. So, I mean, I get excited when I see what young people are able to do. And I'm not surprised that they're sitting back and thinking we don't want to vote because they're waiting for something that's going to light their fire. But when that fire is lit, there is nothing that will extinguish it. Barack Obama got to where he is because of young people in America who stood up, African Americans who said, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it via social media. We're going to do it via songs. We're going to do it via arts, etc. When the young people of South Africa get inspired and stand up, there's no politician who can stand on any podium to convince them, come and register to vote. They will come in their droves. So I look forward to that day.
Hey, we are Khulumus Ayanda. Have we started filming?
I'm sorry, guys. We've not. We have?
We have.
Pardon.
This is not the place that you come from.
He clapped to sync this thing, but you're the one who started it, Ben.
Before we start officially, we just need to let the audience know that we're sick, both Ayanda and I. And no, we're not sick because of any mutual reasons. We are sick individually in our own personal capacities.
Our own corners.
So we're drinking some medicine, I think.
Yes. Honey, lemon, ginger on the side. What are you having?
Outside of that, Sis Ayanda-Allie, I'm honored to have you on the panel show. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts. I've got a lot of questions and thoughts, slightly spicy.
Is that whole list for me?
Yeah, and we're probably not going to get to it. But it's okay.
I should be afraid.
Thank you for coming here. Outside of being sick, how are you doing? Before I hit you with the first question and my elephant in the room.
I'm good. I'm recovering from a cold. My voice is holding steady. I hope it will last long. But I'm okay. I'm excited to see what the next few weeks is going to bring for this country. I am anxious at times, I'll be honest. At times I look around and I think, are we doing enough? Is our message getting across? Are we ticking the boxes? But more than anxiety, I think, is the excitement. I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm excited to see South Africans take back their power. I'm excited to see new entrants in parliament, in the provincial legislatures. I'm excited. I'm hoping it will be a snowball effect that will lead to all manner of people, maybe even a Penuel running at some day. Maybe not now, but 2026, 2029. So I'm actually looking forward to an awakening of South Africans in different sectors of society, taking back their power and being part of what was known as the system before.
I wanted to give a shout out. I actually did the research and almost forgot. So Ipumshaka was a Kwaito music group, and I wanted to give the names because we know Lebo Matosa, we know Thembi Siete, but also Theo Ntlengetwa and Junior Sokela.
Yes.
They were very young. I think Lebo may have been 14, 15. With piercings and this crazy hair, and they were disruptive. Lebo's gone down as one of the legends. Thembi Siete is a legend today, and she's pivoted from music to acting. Junior and Theo, I'm not sure where they are, unfortunately, but they were quite dope in how they moved at the time.
Yeah.
A Tribe Called Quest. If you've watched the Boondocks, a pimp named Slipback. There was something really, really catchy about Ayanda-Allie Paine. It sounded interesting. It sounded fresh. Hi guys, it's Ayanda-Allie Paine. Now it's like it's Ayanda-Allie, and we're like, ow, and where is what happened to the pain, by the way? That's the first elephant that we need to unpack very quickly and swiftly.
I thought we were talking about politics. You're like, hello, welcome.
That is the
Where's the pain?
That's the politics of internal home affairs.
No, I hear you. And I do think it's important, if you want to be a public representative, that you are bringing the country into confidence and they know exactly who you are and what you're about before they can, elect you in any position. I am a divorcee, so I am co-parenting happily with my ex-husband.
Okay.
And
divorcee means congrats or condolences? I'm sorry.
I think a bit of both.
Okay.
The congratulation in that you have found a different route towards your happiness.
Okay.
But the disadvantage is, yes, there's a family that broke down for you to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think for me, then you full circle back into congratulations to saying you're able to raise happy, healthy children in an environment. Ooh, I have kids for days, Pen. You and I can share notes. We can swap notes on that. Because I heard through the grapevine that now I
don't have kids.
So I have additions. So I have 2 boys, biologically.
That you birthed?
That I birthed.
Okay.
2 boys that grew, I always say they grew out of my heart. And my nephews, who are mine for all intents and purposes. That's 4 boys. I have a fiance, at this point, if you would like. Congrats, by the way. Don't be a hater.
Congrats.
And my fiance has got 2 beautiful girls. So
thank you for the girls.
It's 6. I know, right?
Yeah.
And that was a deliberate, intentional prayer for me. I was just like, Lord, ngicela mawungihlanganisa nasambudi, ngicela abe no baby girl, or at least 2 baby girls, so that I can get my girly girls out of my system, the hair, the braids, the lipstick, etc. And I have that opportunity. So Maslangene is 6 of the best children.
Yeah.
Plus mom and dad.
Explain the nephews. Sorry.
So my sister's 2 kids. In African culture, my sister's children are my children, right?
Yeah, that was back in the day.
I still think even now.
I don't know about now.
I really still think even now. Because whenever other people will want to call it black tax. I don't see it that way.
Sure.
Right? I feel that if you've had the opportunity to break out of whatever cycles or systems within which you exist, and you manage to make a little bit of something out of yourself, to whom much is given, much also is required, right? And so if you're able to provide an intervention, if you're able to provide a solution from family, you are the one who's been blessed to be able to do that, right? Yeah. And it's then incumbent upon you to bring the whole family with limitations, of course, and within reason as well. But you have to then have exercised a little bit of responsibility for what you have been blessed with. And as we grow, as we develop, as we pursue careers, and she went to go and pursue some traditional healing components and had to grow and find herself. I then said, I got the home front. Yeah. So I said, I'll look after the home front and look after the boys, and I know she would do the same for me if I needed any help or any assistance. My sisters are amazing. Yeah.
You are raising them.
Yeah. Shout out to my sisters. Can I do that?
Shout out to your sisters.
Shout out to my sisters.
I obviously want to ask, and I apologize because your sister didn't give consent.
Yeah.
There's meant to be a father somewhere with your sister's children.
Hey,
you don't have to cover that.
You're like,
we don't have to cover it at all.
You're like, I'm going to wake up in the morning and that's where we're going to go. So there is supposed to be.
Okay.
An emphasis on the supposed to be.
Okay. But you're raising them.
Yeah.
Are you raising them alone outside of your sister?
Oh, no. So we have a beautiful blended family. We have a beautiful support structure. And I think if they were all just being raised by Ayanda in and of herself, they would be really dismal in terms of what they've been able to achieve. Yeah. But I've got, like I mentioned, an ex-husband who's very active in the lives of their children. I always say,
and the nephews as well.
Yeah, and the nephews as well. Beautiful. Absolutely. And I always say, I'm not a single parent because I don't do this on my own.
That's important.
I'm a divorced parent. I'm a co-parent. And I think that's important to note. So he's very much active in their life. My fiance is incredible. I mean, I see on social media people say, we don't want to women with children. Yeah.
Of course.
And there was a
don't simp, homies.
No,
don't simp.
It's not simp.
Stay away from these.
It's rising up and taking charge where others failed to do so. And I will use the word failed. And I think what's important is, especially for the black man, the black boy who's growing up without a blueprint of what it's like to be a man, without a blueprint of what it's like to be a father, to have people step in the gap. And this doesn't have to be, my fiance, which he does play that role, but it could be the soccer coach, and my boy's soccer coach, absolutely amazing. It could be the pastor at church. It could be just umalume down the road, etc. I think it's so important. If we are going to build a better South Africa, we're going to have to restore the fabric of our society. Families are pivotal. And where we can't have a nuclear family in the definition of what family is supposed to be, I think where we have men bridge those gaps, it's incredible. And I'm blessed because of that. I mean, they lack for no father figure. Yeah. They lack for no voice of reason that will come. They're boys, the things I don't know. I'm just like, hey, leave me. Especially when I talk about soccer, I'm like, hey, leave me. And he'll take them. I mean, my fiance will say, let's go into the Kasam Bin Sopegi game, your Pirates, a stadium. And that will diffuse the tension that's at home. So you're right. I mean, the personal is very much political. If we are going to change this country, if we are going to build one South Africa, we can't just then focus just on the girl child. And we must, because there's a lot that they face. We have to look at the boy child as well. We have to repair the damage to the family that was brought on by all manner of societal ills, your migrant labor, your deliberate breakdown of family structures because of alcoholism and the dope system and all of that. So there was a deliberate and intentional attack on the family. And if we are going to change things around, we have to be deliberate. We have to be intentional. So shout out to the stepdads
that are stepping up.
Real men.
Are
you triggered?
Look, I don't want to hammer in on that. I think it's a very controversial point that we could always discuss on another day. Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to every single stepfather that's out there. Yeah. A lot of children were raised by stepfathers, men who, for whatever reason, came into their lives. It could be that they love the mom. It could be that they love the mom, left, or whatever manner of reasons, but they're in their lives that have raised a lot of amazing kids. So shout out to stepfathers. Men must never feel obligated to raise kids that are not theirs, in my opinion. Women should never feel obligated. I know we do this thing of, if you love me, you must love all of me. I think it's very dangerous, and that's the controversy. But for the people that have intentionally chosen that, we love them and we appreciate and we see them. And then number two, you're very right. And this is something I try to say in my circles. In any space that you're in, if you're a good man, specifically men, but women as well, if you are a good man, try your best to be a father figure to as many kids around you as possible.
Please.
Even if their parents are around.
Absolutely.
You may find that your next door neighbor, the father's there, present, but you see the boy kicking a soccer ball by himself. And you're like, no, I can teach him a few things. Or you see him struggling with his father's there, and you're like, no, I'll be the father. Or you discipline. Speak, I saw you shouting at that girl. We don't shout at girls. We don't do that. And, just try and be a father in your community. And it's something that we lack. We had Uzigotes here as part of our team today. We had Zigote's father, Usfiso Madondo, who spoke about back in the day, we'd have father figures in the neighborhood to a point where you don't feel like your dad is absent because you'd be like, but kono ubab Madondo, kono ubab Mlojwa, kono ubab Kibine, kono ubab Utube. So if ever I'm messing up, I'm going to get 4 fathers coming down on me. And I think we need to revive that very much. One more elephant before we move on to more serious matters that we're here for. How many elephants
can fit into a room, my guy?
This is a big one. Ali doesn't sound African. Paine doesn't sound African. I don't know if your heritage has any non-black in it. I don't know if your ex-husband was non-black. I asked this specifically in the context of Mmusi Maimane having a white wife. Again, she's not here to give consent, but you've got to see Nobuntu Hlazo Webster. That second part of her surname also doesn't sound black. Are you guys an Avengers of mixed race? Trevor Noah, Drake, Shoma Josie, creators of the future?
Firstly, if we were, I don't think it would be a problem. I don't think it's something to frown on.
And racism make colored babies.
Yeah, well, you said that. First, if we were, I don't think that would be a problem. But secondly, no, we're not. I don't think anybody deliberately goes out of their way to look for someone of a different race to be with, unless that is how you are built and wired, and that's what you find attractive. I think more often than not, people want love, to be loved, and to give and receive love. And if it happens to be packaged in a different material than what you are used to, then so be it. Nobuntu's hubby is my namesake, Ayanda, by the way. So he'll have to come on the platform to explain. But we type Webster. So he's very much one of us. Black African man.
According to demographics.
Supportive, awesome. Natalie, Mmusi's wife, is incredible. She's wonderful. I've met her. I've known them way back when. Incredible. For me, yes, my ex-husband was non-black, as you say. And his family.
Which box does he tick?
White, yeah.
White South African.
White South African. Okay. White South African. And that's important, I think, also to note. But again, it was not because, we're not attracted to this race and now we go with this race or this deliberate or intentional. I don't think any one of us, in fact, set out to say,
so you've got a little Trevor Noah and a little Drake, basically.
I have. My baby actually looks like Drake, or what he used to when he was a little small and chubby. Yeah, I thought that was quite cool until Drake started drinking and some Kondi actually these days. But during Inkatis, nothing was the same. I was just like, Samba no Drake. Now the new Drake, I'm not sure about. But yes, absolutely. And we live in a colorful, vibrant, cultural family where you literally can have an uncle who's an Uncle Raphael who's in Cape Town, and then you also have Malum Zingis, also Topsenville, and they both bring a richness of culture, of wisdom. And then you have the nephews who are there. One of the nephews is Zulu, the other one will come in at one, and you have this beautiful melting pot of South Africa right in your home, under your roof. And I think that's what brings us to a place where we say we cannot build politics around identity. We cannot build politics around race. We cannot build this country on an us versus them mentality. It's not going to work, because I feel inherently in our hearts as human beings, we all want to belong. We all want to work together. We all want the same things. Pen, you want to be able to support your family. You want to have food on the table. You want clothes on your back. You want a roof over your head. You want gainful employment. You want safety and security. You ask a white person if they want those things, they'll tell you yes. You ask ask an Indian person if they want those things. Yes, I want those things. We all want those things. And I think there's more that unites us than that which divides. So I think we get lost sometimes and distracted in the ticking of the box. Oh, what are you? Can we put a pencil in Pen's hair? Because I look at your hair sometimes and I'm just like, I wonder more Penuel. I don't know. Those curls are very suspicious.
The pencil sits here, you must know.
On most days. So I feel if we go around measuring each other's noses and putting pencil on our hair and trying to see how light are you and your proximity to whiteness based on the complexion of your skin, we lose the essence of who we are and what we're trying to do, which is build a better South Africa, which is live and coexist peacefully. And as Nelson Mandela said, in harmony and with equal opportunity. So yeah, that's my bid on race relations, at least for now.
Ali and
Ali.
I'm sorry for this malicious question. Your new fiance, which box do they tick on the old school?
He is gonna be so upset with me because he's also on the back. He's always in the background. It's like, hey, I'm a professional. Don't be airing my dirty. Umzulu, ne? Paka. Ne? Mom is Tsonga, love it, all the way from Mpumalanga. Also, I can say his clan name, ne? Zuidegalang, ne? Mkachwa. Yeah. Any more than that, I'm crossing.
No comment from you, sir.
Oh, you're happy? He ticks the right boxes.
No. There are no right boxes. We said we're not going to deal on Ali.
Yeah. Ali is okay. So that's very interesting because we tried to search this thing with my sisters and I. But yeah, all of my sisters, is serving and giving and contributing, and I think we get that from my mom and dad, and I'm really, really
Where's home?
Grateful for that. Home, I was born and raised in Dobsonville, Soweto. The dad is from Izanqokwe in the Eastern Cape. Mom was from the Limpopo side, also grew up in Soweto.
Okay.
I always joking, it's a must go to Dobsonville. Others hit either the N1, the N2, etc. We're like, I see Dobsonville.
Try M2, so N. Or it depends.
It depends,
yeah.
Okay. N17 even if you want. But yeah. So
your mom falls under which tribe? Sorry.
My mom's mom Umbedi, and then the father was Xhosa. Okay. My dad Xhosa. But you asked about the surname, and we have a sneaking suspicion that it might be traced back to Cape Malay.
Sure.
We have no proof or evidence except for the fact ukuthi hey have bayelo abantu in the family, and we can't explain why. We don't know why, but we just based on the complexion and somewhere along the line the Ali came in terms of the surname. So we suspect that there could be some Cape Malay blood, but otherwise it could just be that Xhosa thing, right? Sure. Where you have a Grootboom or you have a Matthews, etc. because of the history of South Africa. But very much come on,
let them know.
That is who we are.
Your parents still alive?
Late, both parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But thank you to them for giving you guys to the world. We appreciate you guys. Obviously, we're meeting your family through you. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate them in their absentia for allowing us to experience you guys in this life.
Thank you.
Last elephant in the room, biggest elephant in the room.
These are disclaimers you need to put out in the invite. Please come to the Penuel show. We are going to be dishing out elephants and elephants. I'm like, what is going on? Let's go.
There are 3 politicians in South Africa that seriously gaslight me. Seriously make me very angry to a point where I can't control my emotions. And I try to breathe. I try to woosah. The one is the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa. I stopped listening to his speeches during the COVID lockdown, the supposed family meetings, which were one-way traffic. So now when he gives speeches, State of the Nation, whatever the case may be, I tend to read the summaries after because I get very angry listening to him for many reasons that I've documented, but I'm always willing to engage. That's not to say I can't sit with him. I'd like to think I'm professional enough to be able to sit with Ubabu Matamela Ramaphosa. The second one is our previous finance minister, Ubabu Tito Mboweni, who would go on Twitter after he left Parliament speaking about a state bank and nationalizing minerals and all these revolutionary things, and then comes back into Parliament and then quiet, and then leaves again to go and join certain big companies, businesses. And then what he decides to tweet about is his failed attempts at cooking chicken,
like his
tinned fish, and many other things that really trigger me as someone who was meant to be a rep of the people. and to drive. Because, I mean, he was in parliament, I think, back from Mandela days, if I'm not mistaken. That's the second one. These guys really, I think I stopped following Tito Mboweni because I was like, nah. Then the third politician that gaslights me is Uputwetu, ex-president of the ANC Youth League, Fikile Mbalula. I think Fikile Mbalula has half figured out politics. And maybe that's what I'm failing to understand. Anyone who is in leadership, Mbalula's like, whatever your mandate is, I'll serve. Whether it's Zuma, Mbeki, Ramaphosa, and if it means we have to throw other people, previous leaders under the bus, so be it. I'm here now today. If Ramaphosa gets asked to step down and a new person comes in, Paul Mashatile, I think Mbalula will be there like, no, we stand with Comrade Mashatile. And the last president, Ramaphosa, what happened with Marik? And you're like, no ways. No ways can you be this guy. You decided to go and work for that guy after leaving, I believe, Morning Live. So maybe on a lighter note, your time in media, Morning Live, where I thought you were meant to be Leanne's understudy and to take us into the future there. Sakina Kamwendo, who's absolutely brilliant, came in. You left there and then you went to go and work for Umbax. And how was that? How was media? How was the leaving? And how was your 2-year stint working for the previous Minister of Transport, who is now the Secretary General of the ANC?
Sure, that's a mouthful. Okay, I think it would have to begin a step before we even go to Morning Live.
Okay.
Talking a little bit about who Ayanda is. I grew up, as I mentioned to you, in Dobsonville in Soweto. I was very privileged in comparison to some of my peers.
I like that you're saying
that.
Absolutely. I come from Soweto, but I was privileged.
Absolutely. Yeah. I never had to worry, which is Zodla and Ndlin. I never had to worry whether or not my fees would be paid. I had a mom and a dad in the house. I was at a school where I could speak English. All those things alone were setting me apart and differentiated me drastically from the kids that I would play Inketo Mkusha with. Right?
You were the uppity girls in their looks.
I think uppity is relative because then you go to school in Constantia Kloof Primary, my friend, and you realize that in comparison to some of the kids in Constantia Kloof and Ellen Glen High School, you are just getting in there. Because when your parents will still have to tell you, there's no holiday in Hermanes, there's no 1, 2, and 3. So it showed me that wealth is relative, that there is inequity and inequality in the country, and that we have to find a way to right the wrongs of the past more effectively if we're going to have a shared vision for the future. I would wake up in the morning, bath, get into a taxi from Dobsonville to Roodepoort, rank 5, from Roodepoort to Ellen Glen High School, right, and make that trip back. By the time I got to school, there were kids who were getting dropped off by their moms and dads. Some of them, the higher you go, in grade 11 and 12, they're driving themselves to school, etc., etc. When I come back, you're seen as no, etc., etc. So that creates in a child a bit of not an identity crisis, but you want to figure out what is going on. I think that's how the brain is wired. We want to make meaning and explain things.
It is an identity crisis. You're not black enough. You're not white enough at school.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll concede to that. And so you grow up saying, I need to tick these boxes and put things where they're supposed to be and make sense of it all. And so that was always what was at the back of my mind in everything that I did. I go into media and communication to try and find an outlet to share these ideas. Or working? This is both working and studying. Okay. I studied communication science. And then I started working, freelancing, Rainbow FM, community radio, find my way in Talk Radio 702, find my way into SABC, ENCA, Power FM, SAFM, and all of that with that agenda of saying, I want to get to the bottom of what this is that we're experiencing.
Range, by the way, at a young age. Congrats.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you very much. I've been very blessed, if I can also just sneak in a young shout out to Jesus.
Hey, JC,
we see you. So being drawn to human interest stories, being drawn to stories that try to find, meaning in this cold world that we live in, right? That can be the best of times and the worst of times at the same time. And then while I was doing my media work, and this is, a lot of people don't know, I started an NGO in Dobsonville, in Soweto, in the very same house where I was born and raised. When my parents moved on to suburbia, I need to imagine now they're doing the things.
Shout out to Abazali.
Shout out to Abazali.
Which suburbia?
Batswadi. They went to, next to Princess, Westgate. Yeah,
Dope.
in Lindhaven, yeah. And then the house was vacant and they were renting it. And I was like, also me, I'm here. Ngicela ukurenta the house. I'd like to start an after-school care program. I want to bridge that gap that I experience, where young people who are passionate, who are energetic, who are ambitious can be given access. Because what my education and my upbringing and my complexion and my English gave me was access.
Yeah.
So you find an Ayanda and you find someone who could be twice, if not 3 times better than Ayanda Elokshin, but they don't have access.
Correct.
And I thought if we could start an organization that would give young people in the township an equal chance at succeeding, then that could be a way in which we find that solution to that issue that I was telling you about many years ago that I grew up with. So we started Bukhobami Youth Center 2015.
Please say that again.
Bukhobami.
Bukhobami.
My core, my essence, the real me. Yeah, Bukhobami Youth Center. And we were trying to say to young people, find out who the real you is, without the drug infested community, without the teenage pregnancy, without the crime, without the abuse. Who are you and what can you give to the world? So after school care program, educational assistance, career guidance, skills development and training. And this becomes my life's purpose, right? So everything that
while
we make,
working.
while I'm working,
Sure.
everything I make as an MC, etc., we chuck right back in there. I have a group of young people, graduates who are unemployed, young people who are not doing much in the township, saying, let's work with you on this. Terrific, incredible people who, even as we speak now, they're manning the ship at Bukhobami. 9 years later, this is what we do. But what we then see through Bukhobami and through the media is that issue that I had growing up is not being solved, Paine, right? We still have inequality. We still have unemployment. We still have your lower LSM schools, quintile 1, 2, 3 schools being predominantly in the township, and you having to take 2 taxis to get better education. All of those things are not solved for. Then at the back of my mind, now I've studied communication science. I've done a community development as well. I'm like, man, go short, man. Go into something. Then I think I need to find a way of getting upstream to see what is polluting the water that we're busy trying to clean downstream.
That's a really dope metaphor.
Because we're busy skamanzi with buckets, etc., etc., trying to solve the problem either through media or through NGOs, etc. And those things are good, by the way. I don't want to frown on that at all. Absolutely important and necessary work. But in my head, I was like, I want to see what's causing the problems. And the only way to do that is to get inside the belly of the beast.
Okay.
You have to get into government. You have to understand how governance works. You can't say, oh, our policies, if you don't understand policy formation, policy formulation, right? I wanted to know the workings of this monster, this huge machine. And so I got an opportunity, like many other opportunities, and this is not me boasting, but this is me declaring. I got an opportunity, was headhunted, as was the case with a number of other opportunities that I've received. Got a message from someone who said, are you interested? There is a new minister who's coming into transport. And at that time, I was praying. I mean, I wanted in, but I wanted social development between the two of us. Sure. I was like, I really want to go into social development. I want to find out how we can solve for some of these issues. I then get an opportunity in Department of Transport. I remember even praying. I'm like, Lord, is this it or ngiyapayiziseka? But on my first day there, I looked at the slogan here, transport, and it was Department of Transport is, for social development and economic growth. And I was like, okay, the heartbeat for social development and economic growth. I was like, I'll take that, And then I get in there, and I'll be honest with you, it was an opportunity for me to learn, an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity for me to ply my trade in terms of community development, in terms of communication, in a completely new terrain. As I started working as Department of Transport, I started to witness things that were going right and things that were not going right. And I went back to school because I don't know if that's a default for me, but whenever I'm like, I need to segue into something else, you know, I want to pivot, I go to school first. And I did my master's in public administration. And I wanted to know what I don't know, right, before I can start pointing fingers. And you ask about Minister Mbalula at that time. Charismatic individual, energetic individual,
very energetic.
Right? Very energetic. You could, as we speak, get a phone call at there's taxi violence in the Western Cape. Ayanda, let's go. And you're like, oh my gosh, oh Lord, I haven't packed. I've not done this. And it's Hak, see Western Cape. There is an issue with Sanral and the toll gates, and we had said this thing was going to be completed, but it's not completed. We need to have a meeting. And let's go, you know? And we would go there as a team, and that was a priceless opportunity. Having a seat at the table as a young Black woman, walking the corridors of power, witnessing firsthand how policy is created, is implemented or not implemented, how power dynamics play themselves out in the political arena. All of that cannot be learned from a textbook. All of that you need to be in close proximity with those who are, you know, the levers of power for you to understand. And I am always going to be grateful to have been close enough to see how things are done, but further away to still have a semblance of autonomy. And I think because I was not entrenched in ANC and the culture of the ANC and accountable to structures, I was able to make decisions for myself to say, I've been here long enough. 2 years, I've learned. And I think if I continue in this trajectory, I will find myself in a position where I'm part of the problem and I'm no longer trying to provide the solutions that I went in trying to find. And so after 2 years, without a fight, in fact, we got along with the minister at that time because and he treated me like a younger sister, if you will. And he pushed me a lot of times. And I mean, you have to be stressed because you're constantly putting out fires, etc. And he helped in that regard. But there were times when I felt I don't agree with this path necessarily. And you'll have that everywhere you go, by the way. You know, you'll have that in any workplace environment. But when it speaks to the core of who you are, and you then say to yourself, I can no longer justify my presence here, then you have to take tough decisions. And the tough decisions were taken with no love lost, no issue, no fight, no, when I went this, so. It was literally just for me. I came into this space to learn what I needed to learn, to solve for what that little girl was dealing with, an identity crisis. And once I feel like I have been empowered to such an extent that I can make a difference elsewhere, it was time for me to pack up and go.
Your earrings on the table. I don't know if you want to put it on.
Yes, please, because for continuity. There's no cards.
This is not that type of party. We don't have that type of budget. Asikwazi ukhatha guys. Asisakhatha la. Sakhatha la izinto eziningi ziyalimala. Happiness.
Thank you. No.
For now, no.
Yeah.
Thanks, Debs. How's your time at? I've got a couple of questions. How's your time at Morning Live?
What do you know?
Were you a part of? Were you a part of the? Was it necessary to be part of the ANC to work for the minister? And if that's not the case, it would be nice to dispel that myth for people. On that point, there's an important distinction between politicians, bureaucrats, what are called civil servants. There's a third one, I forgot it. Maybe you'll break that down for us.
I feel like it's the same as bureaucrats. It's the ones who are doing the implementing, if I understand correctly. If not, please can you also school me? I'm new in politics.
Nothing. I'm not even there yet.
Yeah.
There was another point. It probably has to do with Mbalula himself. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with, how was your time at Morning Live? Because that was my introduction to you outside the portfolio of work you've done.
I need to value my elephant in the room, so there was no way you were going to start
This was meant to be the last elephant, and it's on its way out.
No, again, I feel as though every single thing about my life, and I don't want to say was serendipitous, because I don't think it's serendipity. I think it's intelligent design. I think I'm a believer in a deity. I believe in God. I believe in
English.
Jesus.
Let's look up serendipity.
Right. So serendipity is like what?
Is it not grace?
Like by chance, like by chance, a chance encounter. Like, oh, that was serendipitous.
Serendipitous, occurring or discovered by chance in a happy or beneficial way.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's what it was. I really do feel that my path was chosen for me, even without me seeing. You know how you put together a mat? Bring me back to this point if I digress. A mat, upside down, sometimes it will have those frills.
Sure.
But when you place it the right side up, the tapestry makes sense. So for me as well, going to media, going all the time, I mean, at that time, people were like, because resign. Didn't make sense to me as well.
You're a red flag in corporate. People like you are a red
people
flag
are just like, you just a short stint here, what's going on? And at times you're just like, I don't know, Nami. This is a fire in my bones that won't let me stay here, But when you put the mat the right side up, the tapestry makes sense. You see the pattern, you see the picture. Yeah. And you then realize that absolutely everything, the frills, isn't a pansy, things that are, unfinished, whatever, we're all building up to this point. And I think every single thing about where I was, where I've been, brought me to where I am today. Morning Live, I get there and people are just like, yo, where are you from? I mean, I was headhunted from ENCA when I got to Morning Live. Hello, come and join Morning Live. I was like, say less.
Say
less.
When am I getting headhunted in this life?
When I talk about the grace, you guys.
Pen, we saw you on the podcast. We want to give you...
No, and I talk about the grace. Your time is coming. How are you with this JC guy?
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I get there and... So you don't know how to place this girl. Does she have the capacity to do this job? Morning Live is a huge platform. There was Vuyo, my guy. Yeah. Vuyo is irreplaceable.
May he rest in peace.
Absolutely. He is irreplaceable, right? So I go in there and I decide I'm not going to replace Vuyo, because you cannot replace Vuyo. But what I can be best at is being Ayanda. Go there. Read the news. Now and then I get bored quite easily, quickly sometimes. I'm like, I don't just want to sit.
I almost said something so inappropriate. Please carry on.
Thank you for controlling yourself.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. So I read this. So I read the auto cue, etc. And then I think, can I not go out and do some outside broadcasts?
Or be in the field?
Can I be on can I produce some stuff? Can I advert? You don't have to pay me extra. I just want to see what's out there. Man, the production team is like, send her everywhere, anyway. I always joke and I said, I discovered at Morning Live that there was a place called Kagamas in South Africa, in the Northern Cape. Never have I ever thought, right? So I go there and I
remember
find
her
out,
name, sorry.
Yeah, it's a wine area, beautiful people, they speak Afrikaans, etc. One day you're there, the next day we say Pri or North, hanging out with Ama Q Marshall.
Sure.
The next day you are interviewing Jacob Zuma, playing chess with Jacob Zuma. The next day you're in the Western Cape walking along the beach with Julius Malema, asking Julius how his sons and daughters are. Do you understand how that shapes your perspective, how it broadens your worldview, how it increases your capacity to engage with ordinary South Africans, how it helps you learn? Because you go into that space, you don't know everything. You don't know what other people think. You don't know what the lived reality of someone who say Northwest is. You're a girl from Dobsonville, for crying out loud, So you go there, you learn, and my gosh, my mindset shifted. I was able to be empathetic. I was able to understand other people's concerns better. I was able to learn and be teachable through this Morning Live. And I think it just grew in me an insatiable hunger to understand more about where we are as a country and how we can come together, crossing our differences and working as one, which fed into what we did at Bukhobami, which fed into this hunger of saying there must be more that we can do. There must be some shift that we can put in place in government. Yes. So Morning Live was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely amazing for me. I grew. I just feel that I wanted to be part of the solution. And as a journalist, you can't.
Sure.
As
and
a journalist, you have to be objective. You can't say
listening to
Mpeto. You know,
listening
you can't.
to Mpeto.
Exactly.
And you just have to keep
be
it here.
objective and like, okay, you know, and for me, I mean, I couldn't anymore. It's like, okay, I need to be somewhere where if I push a button, something will change, you know. And then I got a talk show on SAFM, and Power FM also did that for me to a certain extent as well. And when I was at SAFM, I was able to suggest what I want to talk about, suggest the guests that I want to have, you know, that kind of autonomy. And because you're not a news anchor, you don't have to be objective. I can say to my guests, I think you're lying, or I think there was a better way of doing that, you know. And I think that gave me a certain level of freedom and growth again, you know, and that really shaped where we are now to say, let's get into politics and see if we can also try and influence, you know, growth in a different direction for the country and a different trajectory for South Africa. So I think, yeah, Morning Live was absolutely amazing. I forgot question 2 and question 3.
Don't worry. We'll get to them.
Yes.
I'm not being rude. I'm researching stuff and making notes.
I figured.
There's something about exposure and access at a young age which can either make you or break you. There are a lot of young people, because of their parents, because of the neighborhood, the school they went to, are in privileged spaces. Politicians, big business, maybe for reasons we could try and explain, they never amount to anything really great. Maybe it's taking spaces like that for granted. You find children from Johannesburg aren't as ambitious as kids that move to Johannesburg. The example you are making, playing chess with ex-President Jacob Zuma, working on the beach with Julius Malema, reminds me of my first employer, my first employer, Vuyo Jack. He was relatively young at the time. He was early 30s. He was a young global leader at the World Economic Forum. He'd set up EmpowerDex with Chow Chow, and he'd seen some of my work on social media at the time. I'd written a book. I was an artist. I was finishing off honors in accounting. I wanted to be a CA. He's a CA. I went to work for him at a company called Africa Empowered. And one of the things he did for me, which I'll always be thankful for, is giving me access to people that run this country. So we hosted Jacob Zuma at a dinner. You sat with big business CEOs, people that founded businesses. I moved from there to go work at ABSA head office and then Standard Bank. And when you get there, the bureaucracy, the levels, people get excited that Maria Ramos is going to be giving a talk. She's the CEO of ABSA at the time. In my head, I'm like, it's just Maria Ramos. You go to another, I remember when I was at Standard Bank, at ABSA I met Happy Chingila as well from Hurt Boys. You get to Standard Bank, I'm like, I want to sit with Sim Shabalala. Yeah. And people are like, no, but he's the CEO. I'm like, my brain doesn't work like that. And I realized later that it was because of the access and exposure. And I can imagine for you, part of what corrupted you, I'm going to use corrupt, part of what corrupted you was getting early exposure to these people. And with that early exposure, which didn't come later, you're like, they're not as special as I thought they would be. And it's like, but why not me? Why am I interviewing this person and why is someone else not interviewing me? Because I think I could do a better job, maybe. Or why am I not involved? I feel like a spectator, but I wanna play in here. And for some people, that exposure and access is very important because it charts a path for them to be like, you know, when I was 15, when I was 18, when I was 25, I got to see these people and I was like, so this is how a billionaire lives. This is how a multimillionaire creates a business. I think I could do this. And that's when I started, where the next person engages a person like that in their late 40s, 50s. By then maybe you're tired, etc. And you're like, yeah, I don't know. So I just want to give a shout out to you having that opportunity at that early age. Do you need to be a member of the ANC to serve, in parliament, yes, but to serve in the bureaucracy? And I wanted to give this definition for people that don't know. So you've got politicians who belong to political parties in this country. We're moving more towards independent candidates, hopefully. And then there's what we call civil servants, bureaucrats. These are people that work at the department. And to be fully honest, and this is why it's important to have this conversation, the politicians' campaigns sit and then are meant to devise policy, etc., etc. Then you speak about implementation. The people that are meant to be doing the work, the people collecting the bribes are traffic cops. The people that are not filling in the case, affidavit at the police station, the nurse who's being rude at a hospital, the lady at Home Affairs was like, "Hi, mini system offline," and you can see, but Nadia Sebenza, and they're having 3-hour lunches. Those are not politicians. Those are bureaucrats. Those are civil servants, and those are the people that are actually meant to do the work.
Yeah.
So a bureaucrat is an official in a government department. In particular, one perceived as being concerned with procedural correctness at the expense of people's needs. So they're the people there. The other part I wanted to add was suppliers or tenderpreneurs, because that's also another leg. The politicians sit in parliaments or sit in structures. The civil servants who actually, the school teacher, you don't need to be in a political party to be a traffic cop, there's affiliations and cadre deployment and these things, but essentially, if you just do a good job, you're meant to be placed. Then there's the suppliers, the people who supply the toilet paper, the people who, if there's a job somewhere that government cannot do because they're only meant to do policy, then these people come in and. So there's those 3 role players that I think ordinary South Africans need to understand and figure out where you want to sit. Sorry, back to the question. Did you need to be a member of the ANC to go and work so closely with the Minister of Transport? Let me put a note for
that is
after you answer.
That is such a critical point that you raise. The distinction between the categories that you've just highlighted now is so important, and I feel as though a lot of South Africans are not aware of those distinctions, because even in a department, like a Department of Transport, for example, you have the political office of the minister, right, with the political principle that's there. You then have the department itself, right, with the Director General as the nucleus and the various DDGs, etc., and then it flares out as per the organogram. And I think that's important for us to differentiate as well. I'm going to speak about the office of the political principal. That's where, you know, the minister comes with the spokesperson, with the PA, with the advisors, etc. And if a minister is recalled or removed for whatever reason, sihamba naye sonke, because your term there is linked to that particular principle.
So Nomsholozi would shuffle an entire group of people.
Sonke, everybody shuffling, right? Sure. Unless the new minister who's coming in would say, okay, no, I actually like this PA, and the PA is not affiliated to the previous minister. It's like, I'll stay here with you, then that's fine. Then you can do that. But usually your political appointees, which by the way are not hired the same as the ones who are in the department. So people are asking, did you fill out this form? So it's important for you to understand that. And I mean, look, if you want to debate the merits thereof and whether or not that needs to change as a policy, I'm here for that, right? But I think that's an important distinction. I don't think it is a common occurrence to have someone so close to a minister who is not a card-carrying member, or at least professing to be affiliated to the political party in any shape or form. I was not asked, are you an ANC member? I was sympathetic to the ANC. I had tried to join a branch years ago only because, you know, Tambo guys, you know, you're like Chief Albert Lutuli, we are there, you know, Walter Sisulu. You fall in love, and I think it's difficult to be a South African and say you had not at some stage been sympathetic to the cause of the ANC because of the rich history that they had. So I was one of those, but I was also very critical.
But you were an ANC supporter at the time.
I was, not active. So not active, not in a branch.
Not vocal.
Not vocal, not active. And in fact, whenever they would go to any of the door-to-doors, etc., all my colleagues knew. It was not written anywhere, and it was not communicated anywhere, but everybody knew you get to Ayanda, the first flight back home at that point. So for example, if we've gone to the Western Cape and the business of the Department of Transport was done, and then now they were going to go on maybe the next day or whatever, and do political work or constituency work, etc. That is where our paths crossed. And it's so funny because I'd never sat down to them and say, but they just knew. And I was also like, this is great that they know that. But so I came into that space with that understanding. And what I appreciated then is I was hired based on merit. But what is interesting is the fallout that created, which tells me that this was an anomaly.
Okay.
Right? Because when I arrived, there was an anonymous letter that was written by my comrades, or so it said in the byline. And this anonymous letter was lambasting this celebrity that had been brought into the Department of Transport. What does she know? She can't write. She can't communicate. She has barely even gone to a single BGM.
Sure. Which branch does she represent?
At least when you know that the BGM is a branch, I wrecked my brain for a good week and a bit trying to find what in the world, which year was that discussed in Com Science 101. What is it? Is it an affiliation? Is it like a postgrad? What is a BGM? I went to the teaching. I was like, I've Googled and researched and looked through all my notes. I have no idea what this BGM is that I need in order to be a good communicator and spokesperson. He's like, it's a branch general meeting. I was like, so you mean to tell me to the standard that has been created for you to serve in a ministerial office is whether or not you had done it door to door, whether or not you had attended BGM, and that spoke to the culture.
But I think that's fair. But we can debate it another day.
Not necessarily. And I'll tell you why I say not necessarily. And I agree. I mean, it broadens the conversation to include your cadre deployment, etc. For me, it spoke about, can I do the job?
Sure.
Is Ayanda qualified? Does Ayanda have the emotional intelligence to work with people?
But you had a cheat,
does Ayanda have the acumen? All those things. That for me.
But you had a cheat because of your NGO.
Maybe, yeah. And in fact, yeah. And maybe because
the next person will be like, but look at Ayanda, it's merit. Not knowing that you have something special.
I guess. Yeah. And so for me, that said the culture of the ANC was such that you would want someone who is sympathetic to the cause. And I don't know if it's just ANC or if it's across the board. You know,
it's across the board, but they'll deny it.
It possibly is. But I'm saying it's important for which is why, and I digress, I have to throw this in there, which is why Build One South Africa was so appealing to me. Because nobody asked, what is your affiliation? What do you think about Mmusi? What do you think?
What is your constituency shift?
What's your constituency? They literally said, what are you doing for the community now?
Yeah.
What do you hope to do in future? What is your experience? What is your skill set? How can you serve? Why do you think you deserve to be in parliament? Why do you think you deserve to be a member of the provincial legislature? What can you offer the populace? Nobody asked, have you gone to a door-to-door? Have you bribed so-and-so? And I think that's very important. Now, that doesn't say, okay, that doesn't mean you're not going to have to do the actual work on the ground. You will have to, but it's not the core. It's not the center.
But the counter to that is that Build One South Africa is new.
I guess. But for me, I even felt that, when you try to get into ANC structures, etc., never were you asked, what are you doing for the community? Never.
Sure. Did
they even ask, you've got a youth center. Why do you think you should be here? No, ne political school. Political school. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I think they said it was going to be run by former President Kgalema Motlanthe. I don't know what became of that. Cadres need to come in and understand that you come in here to serve, to give, and you come in here to contribute, not to get a job as a spokesperson, not to get a tender. So that's the one part that we speak about. I personally did not have to subscribe, but the situation around my entry told me that you do need to somehow be affiliated in order for you to get that job. Then, we can speak about the civil servants. There are two, if not more, kinds of civil servants. Civil servants are not homogenous at all. And having
more
worked
big
with
English
them,
words, meaning they're not one big group that is the same.
Yeah, they're not the same, right? And I say this having worked with people in the department. You have those who are there because, ANC fan ukuthi ithole indawo yokubeka ama-faithful wabo, those who have served,
loyalty,
ANC,
loyalty rewards program,
patronage, benefactors, you know what I mean? We work sizokufaka man ku-program. Then there are honestly those, and I don't know whether they are ANC members or not, I don't know, but there are those who know why they are there. Those who know that they are there to serve.
Sure.
Those who are able to say no to a bribe. Those who will tell you that we constantly come here, we're under-resourced, we're short-staffed, we don't have the tools of trade, but we will go the extra mile to get the job done. They are there, guys. They are there in Home Affairs, they are there in Transport, they are there in SAPS, they are there. They are there. They are the ones who will tell you, Uguti, there's corruption in such and such a place. Yeah. We're not going to do it. Sometimes the reason for underspending in any department is because someone refused to take part.
Sure.
Someone in supply chain is saying, Angsainila. I have friends who are in different parastatals who will say, my friend so-and-so escalated the matter, so-and-so, and the reason why this tender is not getting signed and approved, and the reason why the work is not being done is because I asked for them to put it in writing. You want me to sign this thing? Put it in writing. So because you're not putting it in writing, the project is stalled. You know, so they are there, guys. And shout out to the civil servants who know that they are serving the society and not politics and politicians. They are there in their numbers. I can tell you firsthand of people who've had to go and go into hiding, witness protection programs, because they blew the whistle on corruption in different departments, who then say, my life is at risk. The lives of my children are at risk. I mean, we can speak of Babita Diakoran.
Oh,
we can
I wanted to say her name. May she rest in peace, man.
Absolutely.
She blew the whistle on the health department.
Yeah, she's not alone. But Ningi, some of them will carefully just resign. Some of them are being frustrated as we speak. They are being sidelined. They are being shoved into a corner. They are facing trials. I've got friends. I mean, I can tell you of people who say, for 5-6 years, I was not getting paid. I refused to resign. But they could do nothing with me because they could not find any fault in me, all because I stood up. The civil servants are there, guys. Yes, bakona laba bamachepisi who are sitting there will just be on some, offline. They are there. Right? Just like in any company, even in a private sector, there are those who are going to be gatekeepers and who are just frustrating the system. They are there, right? But those who are in the public service, who know why they are there, guys, please, not all traffic officers are corrupt.
That's correct.
Not all police officers are corrupt. We can say they are few and far in between, etc. Yes, that conversation can be had.
The traffic cops that don't take bribes, that's bora. Sorry.
Right. So, but they are there. And that's why for me, getting into the space of politics, I really, really would want to appeal to them as well. When looking at your constituency and who you're speaking to, etc., you can use your nice English and say, we want to speak to this sector, former model say, da-da-da-da-da. But we should not forget those who are in the civil service, who are saying we are tired with status quo, with the way things are going at the moment. We want to change. And we're saying to them even, try build one South Africa. Try build a better South Africa through this vehicle, BOSA. And let's see, maybe your life as a civil servant will be different. You won't have a political principle in your ear telling you to cut corners, telling you to give this tender to the third leg that you spoke about, the supplier. The supplier who is chosen based on their ability to give me kickbacks. The supplier who's chosen based on their ability to support the political party, which is why there's a jostling for positions. No, we want tinasifuna ekuruleni. No, tinasifuna tinasifuna. Why? Because it's matenda.
Don't go through corners. Are you speaking about the EFF?
I'm speaking about civil society, civil service.
Oh, sorry.
I'm speaking about civil service. I'm saying, so we have people who are behind the desk, pressing the buttons, printing the cards, doing all these things, who are also tired, who are tired of politics and politicians, and who just want good governance. And we are saying, as Build One South Africa, we want that capable state that they could keep on saying, oh, President Mangati capable state, deal. But we don't see that capable state because we still see people who were caught up in state capture still being advanced. Njani, guys, capable state.
On paper, there's a separation between politicians and bureaucrats.
On paper.
I'm assuming.
On paper.
But the reality is another way.
Correct.
Some of these civil servants, shame, because, we know these stories. Some of them sit in offices, they get told who to give the tender to, and they get none of the kickbacks, which is kind of sad.
But they take the fall.
It's not for me to say, guys, I'm a procurement officer.
No, but the funny thing is, their signature is on the document, on the paper trail.
They had no choice,
They're the fall guy. You have a choice.
Look, this is a conversation. I'm gonna raise this here for when you guys get into government and change things. I've got an issue with traffic fines and the way they work. As much as I was joking about traffic cops that don't take bribes are boring, I half mean it. There's something wrong with how we punish traffic fines, because if I'm speeding, I'm wrong, I'm in the wrong. Exceeding the speed limit by whatever, I get stopped by a traffic cop, correctly so. Me say baba. License. Mlochwa. Manje mlochwa uyaphi yini? Khona oshonile. Ngiyaxolisa baba. What happens there, obviously two options. The right option, which is I have to get out of the car, go and fill in a a form and explain that I was in the wrong and I get fined. I think it's 21 day, half price period, whatever. Then there's the guy who's like, manje uthini mlotshwa? Uxolisa uthini? Hayi baba, ngicela ubambe la 20 rand noma 50 rand. I've admitted guilt. I was wrong. I was stopped, correctly so. I'm being punished. I'm paying a fine. It is just not the right amount. It's much less, which South Africans don't have money, which is why a bribe is also appealing in that sense. It is less administratively onerous in terms of filling out papers and all those things. And yeah, it's not going to the right place. So instead of going to where it's meant to go, it gets into this guy's pocket and he ends up, hey, traffic cop in a GTI and a double story. SS. So we need to have a conversation about how do we curb outside of just ethics. Things like automation technology. If you're speeding, it captures you. There doesn't need to be human intervention. Even if you're paying, can the fee be something affordable for South Africans? Yes, you're wrong. Yes, we must punish you. Yes, you must feel the pinch. But it can't be that the pinch is, bro, I can't pay my kids' school fees now because of this thing. Or is there a way for us to even change the dynamics of our roads? Something silly that I've raised before. If the highest speed you can ever drive on in this country is 120, why do you have cars that go up to 2, whatever? It's like, you guys are setting us up for failure, Mos. And there's cameras at the bottom of a descent or a decline. You're like, no, we must here. Yeah. So those are some of the conversations we need to have. But on the bureaucrats, politicians, tenderpreneurs, suppliers, I'm assuming, again, there's a separation here. The politicians set policy. The bureaucrats are meant to implement it. The suppliers are meant to supply. And we need to find ways to make sure that these guys are respecting their work. And most importantly, for people to understand is that the civil servants are arguably the most important people because they're the client facing. They're the people you interact with. When you're like, but hospitals are so, you may find the politician did nothing wrong sometimes. You may find the tenderpreneur did nothing wrong. And all you're dealing with is a hospital manager, a rude nurse, a doctor that came there drunk. That is now not, and you're like, no, that guy's not even ANC. He's a doctor who loves booze. And he inappropriately came to work drunk and he wasn't doing a good job and there was negligence. Oh, that nurse is rude. Umamanje is just rude. She could be part of any affiliated what, but she must fix her attitude and serve the people. The tenderpreneur could have supplied things, but someone there, even within the bureaucracy, you look at school teachers that steal stationery, you look at certain nurses that steal meds, for example. So those people, we need to give them a shout out because a lot of them do a lot of good work, but then some of them need to also catch a wake up. Yeah. In closing, what is your feel on Fikile Mbalula as a politician? How do you feel about Fikile Mbalula just as a person that is meant to be serving this country?
Can I just echo your sentiments?
Sure.
Sorry. I want to agree with everything that you said. I agree with you fully.
So it's traffic cop?
No. Okay, maybe everything was a little too generous.
Sorry.
Everything as it pertained to the civil servant and their responsibility and where do politics end and one's own personal ethics begin, right? And I think for me, it's twofold. The first one, where you have a culture of people getting away with murder, sometimes literally, getting away with theft, grand scale. Nah?
Everyone can see
it. Where you have politicians who get away with lavish lifestyles that are inexplicable and where everybody knows this person is corrupt. Sure. Where your own system that you created to investigate state capture, nobody, you as a governing party decided we're going to do a Zondo commission. That commission then finds some of your people wanting and you still let that go, it's not a biggie. Yeah. Where you have that in a society, the traffic officer who is standing there saying manje utini is then just a byproduct on the periphery of a much bigger problem. Correct. Of a fish rotting at the head. And you will continuously have that. It doesn't matter what interventions you put in place. You have a different system now of applying for driving license cards and learner's licenses, etc. Because people were trying to do what circumvent the nigimali to try and get rid of corruption. They said, no, you book online, etc. They still find ways of corrupting that booking online.
Human beings are smart.
You will bring that system where you say the speed camera in, and trust me, someone who is hell-bent on corruption will find a way of even corrupting that camera that is supposed to.
So we need to send out
exactly.
manual.
I mean, look at the water infrastructure problem because we want our water tankers to be deployed. People go in there and mess around with the infrastructure. Yes, there's no maintenance at parts, and sometimes the infrastructure is dilapidated, but there's also deliberate and intentional vandalism.
Correct.
So where there's a culture in society that is built on corruption, that is endorsed by any governing party, doesn't matter what intervention you put in place, people will be corrupt. That's the first one. The second one, as a motorist, when you have zero faith in any of the systems, my guy, you're right. When you get a ticket, you've got, I can't remember. This is now me trying to tap into my spokesperson role. There's a certain amount of time that you can even appeal that ticket.
Yes.
You can appeal it and go and say, this thing was wrong. This lady bengi rudu, so one punishing a ticket, I don't deserve this ticket, etc. You can appeal it, it can be halved, it can be quashed, etc. But because we as South Africans have got zero faith in that system as well. We're not trying to tell me you'll want to take time off on a Tuesday to go and appeal equality,
and apparently there's a backlog there as well.
Exactly. With all manner of crimes and criminal activities. You don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the faith, you don't have the confidence in the system that there's a way in which you can appeal this thing. And they had said, no, let's have a special tribunal that will look into just traffic fines, etc. I can tell you, I mean, as long as it's set up by us in South Africa in this day and time, I don't see it succeed. And so motorists in Nabo, by the way, keep in mind, it's wrong, by the way.
Sure,
it's wrong.
It is wrong.
But the motorists will think, better this than a ticket I can't appeal, than a fine that will cost me an arm and a leg because I'm still paying for the generator that I had to buy because there's load shedding and the water, etc., etc. All of it is wrong. All of it is a
warrant
mess.
of arrest, judgments.
Warrant of arrest, I can't get work.
It's easier to pay a bribe.
And it's wrong, but this is where we are. This is where we are. And I'm saying it is because leadership at the heart. Leadership inspires the department on how to work and what not to do. Leadership inspires society. It inspires to the point where we are able to take accountability for our own actions is because you see, society will call you to order when you're living in a functional society. We are able to litter these days, which is my pet peeve. Please forgive me.
It's also one of my pet peeves, by the way.
I don't understand how
it
people
makes no psychological sense.
Open a window, boldly ice cream you throw outside. You can throw it away at home, but maybe that's I don't know.
Maybe this is where we become Model C.
Yeah, maybe
throwing a can of something,
but you know what it was,
or a bottle outside of a moving taxi,
or even just where you are.
Sense.
We had those guys come and say, "Hey, don't be a litter bag." Da, 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 da. It's cool. So maybe we're indoctrinated, but anyway. So for me, when you're living in a society that is absolutely clean, uyazikhuza wena self.
Yeah.
Just like in a household. And you have that grandmother oshanyelayo. You call yourself to order. There comes a time when Gogo doesn't have to tell you ukuthi ungalahli izinto laphayana. You know, uyayibona ne-environment ukuthi njani, you correct yourself. So in a society that is rampant, that is lawless, that is rudderless, people do what they want to do. The Bible says where there is no vision, the people cast all restraint. There is no direction. People do as they please just to survive. So that's where we find ourselves in South Africa. And that's why this thing is going to be a cyclical, it's going to be a cycle of corruption, paying a bribe for my child to get into
We have normalized the culture.
Pay a bribe for everything.
For everything.
Everything. If someone does people you a favor,
people are doing their job and they're still like, manje drinky.
Exactly. So, and that's because the cycle that feeds itself, unless it's disrupted, will continue. If we create an environment where people will call themselves, the day you say eat drink, even your colleagues will look at you like, and then this one,
drinky.
The society will correct you, the norms and standards. Yeah. Then you ask me about...
Before you answer that, would you like something to drink?
Think about it. I
know. Would you like more? Would you like rooibos and honey? Or I can give you another sachet.
I'd like another sachet with honey.
Another sachet.
Yes, please. Do you wanna stop for this one?
No, we don't stop. We don't have a budget to stop.
You guys literally don't stop.
Sepis Komasam with the magic potion. Namni hila njengo siswako.
Oh my God.
Klampo siswako is the person that I need in my life. Sorry, it's in that bag there.
But Pen, are you on the market?
2 sachets,
because
please.
This door-to-door campaign of yours
has
now got free T-shirts. It's now even giving us free airtime. You can warm this up. This is now the township law. Township girl no gogo sometimes. So I don't know.
Because promoting a sachet and
then we
Mfagele
I need to be proactive.
Are you feeling?
Amaseshe zami manje. Wonke umuntu manje sakho pen first. Pen
So you can warm it for me, and then a sachet, and then just 1 teaspoon of honey.
Are you gonna leave the cameras on?
Thank you.
You gonna make fast?
Yes.
Are you gonna make fast?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, let me give you my cup.
Thank
No,
you,
it's okay.
Debs.
It's okay.
Appreciate that.
Guys, we're making Debs look like such a great guy. He's not normally
Is
like
he
this.
usually? Oh, he's not normally like this.
Caesar knows, but it's
Phela,
fine.
Do you believe him?
Debs like moreki mosigwakhe, guys. We must watch how we behave.
There's a hand. There's a filthy hand behind this moreki here.
What do you want?
Sorry, just this, and then you can bring the honey vibe.
Yes.
Maybe we can give a shout out to the honey person.
Okay, we'll put it here actually.
Is there any person?
No, I'll just give them a shout out. It's gonna be hot water and this sachet and then
Same
sofagi
thing for
honey.
me.
But you can take hers as well. And we'll carry on chatting.
Sachet, 1 teaspoon honey. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Oh, there's another sachet. Sorry, for King.
King.
It's in my bag there.
King,
Thanks, Zigote.
King is making us look bad at
Quiet
BOSA.
on set. Guest wants to answer. Quiet on set. Caesar, come on, Faith, to control the environment.
Don't we need to sing?
How?
Where's the clapperboard?
Caesar, control the set, Baba.
Come on, man.
Now I
Sorry.
miss my TV days.
No, please answer this while these guys are busy. Forget it, Ketlele. We can just close the door.
We've lost the plot. Oh, Father.
Q or Yenzi, whoever's going to be editing this, please keep that whole segment. Thank you. Sorry, ma'am.
No, that's fine.
Your previous employer.
How long have we been at this? We've been...
Sorry, are you tired?
No, I'm not. I
haven't even gotten to the things I actually came here to ask.
I don't get tired of talking, which is probably a strength, a
Oh,
strength
we're speaking about your
and
sister.
a weakness.
We're speaking about your sister, which is something more important.
So you're saying you're what? You're always on the market.
My brother and I have 10 children collectively. He's got 3 boys. I've got 4 boys. Because I'm a more of a real man than him. And I've got 3 girls.
Okay.
So Penzo is the father of the nation, like Umsholos, like Father Abraham. Babuin,
had many sons.
no, I can't say this on camera. But please tell your sisters I say hi.
No, it's okay. I
I
love my
greetings.
sisters.
If you loved your sisters, then it's pretty obvious what must happen.
So I'll
My apologies.
Sorry,
Sorry.
on their behalf.
So unprofessional. Sorry, ma'am. Your previous employer, Secretary General of the ANC and ex-transport minister and ex-police minister, and other things, Fikile Mbalula. Just your thoughts on him as a person and if you think he's a good leader. I know this is kind of inappropriate, to be honest. So I guess you're going to have to watch how you move.
But also, I also want to reach a point in my life where I don't have to constantly refer back to him because it's a new path that I'm charting.
Yeah.
It's a new space that I'm creating for myself. And I don't want to be linked or associated or attached, as it were, to him and his brand and his persona, because I think at some point as a politician, and I'm new to this, I will have to be known for what I can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And I will have to be known for what I stand for and what I believe. But I will indulge you by saying we need to classify what we as South Africans believe to be good leadership. Because for some people, they'll say a good leader is somebody who is able to stand the test of time. You know, they've been around for this long and they're still in politics. And if that's the metrics that you're using, then definitely he's been able to read the tea bags, as it were, and look at the sign of the times and realize, hey, I need to jump ship from here. And his political agility, what some have called twerking, I don't know, I was not there. Jeez. But his ability to stand the test of time in that way. If that is what you hold in high regard when you're looking at leadership, then that would tick the box for you to say he's been able to do that, and that's admirable. If you look at his ability to get a crowd going or to campaign. I think he was head of elections or campaign or something to that effect at the ANC. How he's able to galvanize people around a thing, a theme. He can be held in high regard for that. I mean, someone said, Magangaya with fisheries, he'll have a slogan to say, I can't say it on air, but something fisheries, because he's able to create slogans and Mr. Fix
He's got very like catchy slogans.
So he can get a crowd together and say rah rah rah, Savota, and whether it's for Zuma or Cyril, etc., he'll do that. So if you're saying a leader is someone who has influence in that manner, you can tick that box as well.
Zigote, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Last.
We'll with men first. This is woke culture. I apologize that the lady wasn't served first. I blame Uzigote.
It is well. It is well. Oh, here comes Debza with mine.
Sorry.
Debza wenza door-to-door campaign in a honey.
Sorry, please finish.
So
thank you so much, Debza.
Depends. Thank you, Debza. Depends on what criteria, what metrics you're using to judge leadership. You can then say,
sorry, you speak about getting a crowd going.
Yeah, getting a crowd, campaigning,
I want us to get to the more important metrics.
Sustainability, you know what I mean? Making sure that you're able to sustain this machinery throughout these years, scandal after scandal, and to his credit, and this can be advantage and disadvantage, his willingness to engage media. I've had people who were former communicators say, where 2 months, 3 months will go by, usaba media. Whenever there's a scandal, they dive, etc. Mbalula would always say, point me in the direction of the fire. Where is the fire? That's where I want to go. Where is the camera? That's where I want to go.
He's brave. I'll give him that.
He's brave. Yeah. So also active. We've spoken about those things. So those are for those who are saying we are in favor of him. This is what's important.
Sure.
Then there's a category where you speak about, and this is an ANC-wide thing. Do you have leaders who are fit for purpose in each portfolio? Or are you going to take an Ayanda who's never done a day's work in any finance capacity and make her Minister of Finance and then surround her with expensive advisors and people who are wanting to whisper in her ear for nefarious reasons, etc., and make Ayanda susceptible to ill advice as well and hangers on, because Ayanda knows that she does not deserve this position and does not have the capacity to fill this position. And I think that's something we really need to think long and hard about, because you then have someone who was Minister at Transport, Deputy at Police, Sports, Arts and Culture, etc. And you have to then ask, can one individual be a jack of all these trades and be effective and impactful at all these trades? And this is a policy thing. And that's why we as Build One South Africa are also advocating for the president to make special concession to be able to hire people who are not in his circle of influence, but who deserve the job. You should be able to hire the best chartered accountant or the best community development worker for social development or whatever the case may be, regardless of party affiliation, etc. As minister, if you really are for service delivery, and say it doesn't matter if this person is an MP or if this person is party affiliated, etc. So for me, that's the one thing. If I were to speak about what some of the downsides were, for me, the inability to find solutions over things like e-tolls, the indecisiveness of political principles. And remember, it was transport, it was finance, it was also the Gauteng Premier at the time, who needed to come together. They're from the same political party. They needed to come together. It literally could have been a WhatsApp call. You're all from ANC. It's not like DA in and you to find each other. To say, how are we going to fix this problem?
David Makura.
Yes, it was Makura at that time. And then you have Sandral come and make a pitch. And Sandral at that time, I'm not sure about now, one of the best run state-owned entities in the country, right? top-notch, delivered. And we can talk about who they hired as contractors, but if there was a road to be made, Sandrock can give you that road. Yeah. They were outsourced in terms of their expertise from across the world. That's how highly regarded they were, to advise on other countries, first world and developing countries, right, on how to build this infrastructure. And they come and they'll advise the three ministers and say, this is what we need to do. This is where we went wrong with the whole project. We need to find solutions. That didn't happen. We kept on pushing date. We're going to have a solution in February. We'll have a solution in March. I don't know how long it's been since I've been at the Department of Transport. It's still an issue today. The indecisiveness for me is problematic, and I think it's very telling of where we are as a country. Yeah. And if you're going to have a leader there who is not able to work alongside other leaders from the same political party to find these solutions, dragging the country's resources down the drain. We are billions in debt because we've not found a solution to implement for this e-tolls project, right? So that's the one thing. And then also rushing to implement without due process, I think is something that also I would look at and think, if I were given an opportunity, perhaps that's something I would do better. What do I mean? We go to the Western Cape, there's taxi violence. It's good to go there. It's good to go, with a headstrong attitude to say, we need to fix this thing, we need to fix it now. We call the media, we do all those things. But you can't force that. That needs time. You sit down with the warring factions, you find solutions, not for the media, not for the camera, but to really get to the heart of the issue and the problem. But to quickly want to pronounce on something without really having used, anthropology or sociology to get to the heart of the thing, to rinse the wound and get to the source of where the conflict is, was something I thought, it looked great. It looked like we were doing something, we were there, but absolutely. But for me, we've not solved anything, because no sooner had we gotten on a plane back to Johannesburg, someone had died in the same taxi war. So that was something for me that I thought, really, leadership, yes, does want decisiveness, but you also need to have that wherewithal, the emotional intelligence, etc., to really get in and understand what the issues are and how to play those out. And then also, the same could be said, with regards to the trains at Prasa. That thing is layered. That thing is deep. That thing involves so many different players that didn't want to see Prasa succeed. You speak about encroachment. You speak about other industries that have benefited from a dysfunctional Prasa. You speak about corruption within the entity. You speak about the leadership vacuum and the acting positions. You speak about the boards that come and go. You speak about decisions that are made about who's at the helm, etc. All of that is a cocktail of disaster, and it should have been a priority, especially because the head of state, before placing the then Minister Mbalula at that position, he went on a train and the train broke down, and here was a team that was tasked to fix that. And I'm not oblivious to the fact that these things are difficult. I'm not naive in that I don't know that they can be deliberate and intentional sabotage. But I do feel that it's important that we as a country really take a look at how we elect our leaders, of who we place in ministerial positions, what qualifies them to be in that position. Are we going to be a democracy based on meritocracy, or are we going to be a democracy based on what my surname is, who my friends are, which party am I affiliated to, and whether or not I'm able to get a good vibe going, So I really think that it goes beyond the man, Fikile Mbalula, and it speaks about the system. It speaks about the political party. It speaks about where we are as a country. And I will always, forever, put it on record to say, I learned a lot, I grew a lot. But just like how a parent cannot dictate how a child is going to turn out and say, just because you school fees, it means you must be an engineer now. If this child says, I want to be an astronaut, you better let the child be an astronaut. And in fact, when I joined Build One South Africa, I let him know, just out of courtesy, I said, Jola, I have gone into politics. Thank you for the influence you played. I don't agree with some of your positions, ideology in terms of ideology, but I respect the fact that you gave me a seat at the table. My path is taking me towards Build One South Africa. I do believe that this is the vehicle that can take South Africa forward, and for that reason, I want to say thank you and adios. And he said to me, I don't agree with your position, but I respect that, and that is what I stand on. We stand on business. I said I respect you for understanding where I'm coming from. And I know that he respects me for being able to speak my truth. And I respect him also for being able to speak his truth. And that's where we are right now.
Oh, please put some honey, khoy some honey
Thank
here.
you.
This is not a paid promotion, but shout out to Native Nosi, a black lady who makes her own honey.
Where's the camera?
Yeah.
Shout out.
Anyways.
Shout out.
After the honey.
And then take the teaspoon because you're
Actually, while she's busy with the honey, before she passes it on, I want to give a shout out to Maihlome Chwete, who I've had on this platform. He was, I think, DG under the Minister of Home Affairs at the time, Umalusi Gigaba.
I'm not sure if he would have been DG, maybe DDG or director.
Yo, I'm not sure. You guys might know these things.
Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah.
So there's a DG and a DDG.
Yeah, Deputy Director General, Director General. And this is why, I mean, I wanted to go in there and learn, but also go and like study it because it's huge. And there's like a whole lot of things. And if you ask me, some of them are unnecessary because they inhibit service delivery.
Of course.
Because of all the signatures. And you need all those signatures to curb corruption. But all those signatures slow down the process of service delivery.
That's what
so
we
if
call
we
bureaucracy.
deal with corruption, you won't need this long turnaround time. Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
So Maihlome, I tease him because his father is the late Steve Chwete, who was Minister of Sports at some point when the Springboks won the World Cup in '95. He was there on the podium with Tutatu Nelson Mandela when they handed over the trophy to Francois Pienaar. I was like, it's pretty dope that you're serving. I stand to be corrected, but I think his mother's a member of parliament. And then he left for business. And I'm like, Chief, you must carry on with the family business. He's like, I've served, Chief. Yeah. He's like, you guys must now go in there and go serve. And look, it was a joke, but it was also all of us at some point, if we can, those of us who think we are smart enough, capable enough, strong enough, have some kind of ideas of solving problems. Even if it's possible, because there may not be vacancies, 2 years, 3 years, just get into the systems and be like, I once served in this department and you work better. If you see the windows there, I replaced all those windows out of my pocket. And that's my legacy. And you're like, okay, at least you served for a while. So I just wanted to mention that because earlier on you spoke about wanting to serve and wanting to get involved. And I think it's something that many of us, especially as we get older, because we're not in our teens anymore, we're not in our early 20s anymore, we need to try and serve. And if it's not from the inside, it can be from the outside through a podcast, through a branch, I'm a BGM, through NGOs to be like, there was a problem here. I tried to do it politically, and if that didn't work, I did it in other ways. I
mean, Penzo, just quickly what you're saying now. So, pardon me.
Thank you.
I dream of a South Africa where Maubuzum Danona 7 or 10, what do you want to be when you grow up? That child can turn around and say, hey, I want to be a DDG at Department of Health, or I want to grow up and be the Auditor General, or I want to be a spokesperson for the Ministry of Transport or whatever, because state will be held in such high regard, and working for your government and serving your people in that capacity will be something that you boast about. Right now, if you ask young people what you want to be, yes, they'll say a doctor, lawyer, nurse, on a podcast, etc. But all of those things will usually be aligned with the private sector, right? I want to go into corporate and faggy pencil skirt, and up the sketches, and then I have my presentation, and everybody claps for me. But very few people will say, I actually want to go in there and work for government. And I feel the day we can have young people aspiring to work for the state is the day we would have won. The day we have young people who are studying, we're saying, I want to do public service and administration. I want to know how it is that we can do policy formulation, etc. I think is the day that we really would have said that we've won and we've done well as South Africa. Right now, it's where people go, plan.
Correct.
Most of the time. Of course, there's always an exception to the rule. Yeah. But most of the time, people become a cop because they didn't make it in marketing.
Sure.
Or they become a nurse because there was a nursing college or whatever the case may be. These things are aspirational. These things ought to be aspirational. They
Correct.
ought to be what a child dreams of, to say, I want to work for the state. I want to increase the capacity of the state. And I think we will get there. I have no doubt, because there are ordinary people who are watching now who are tired of sitting in the sidelines. We are tired of watching the country fall apart. And we're not coming to say we have all the ideas, we know it all, etc. We're saying we are going to work with South Africans to fix it. We're not going to come and dictate to you what must be done. We're going to come and bring your ideas together, holding hands to say, and that's what I look forward to.
Ayanda, I also have a dream. My dream. So I agree with what you're saying, and it's sad. You don't go to a preschool or grade 1, 2, and what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a politician. I want to work in government. I've spoken on this platform many times about the idea of a parliament that is like the Springboks. Whether it's 400 seats, or I'd like to have a smaller parliament personally. Let's say 200 seats of the greatest, most dynamic, most talented South Africans, where the smartest kids in schools, like, geez, you're probably going to sit in parliament. And we currently don't have that. And we have, to what you're saying, people who, it's not even a fallback. It's not even a fallback plan. It's just where people stumble across a career when they couldn't find anything else. And this goes all the way back to community leadership. It is not the smartest kid in your neighborhood that ends up becoming the ward councillor or the mayor. Those kids normally tend to go away, and you're left with the kids that were rude in class, that were loud, that would challenge the teachers, etc., etc. I've got a long list of questions. We are not going to get to them. We're not going to get to them. They've got really long answers, I believe. I don't know if you'd like us to give them a shot. I don't know if you have an ability to give like 1-2 line answers.
I don't know if I have that ability. That's the honest truth. We can try.
Must we try?
We can try. I'm very long-winded, as you would have noticed.
No, nothing wrong with that. This is the platform for that. Or the other thing is, I could go through all of the questions and then you can maybe see which ones pique your interest.
I like that idea better.
Okay. I can go through them at any given time, by the way, if you want me to repeat. I'd like to know who recruited you, headhunted you, which is the theme of your life.
Nobuntu Hlazo Webster.
Who headhunted you into BOSA? Or are you going to try the word?
No, I'm changing my mind, which is flip-flopping. So let me behave. Let me behave.
Must I go through the questions? And whichever are quick, you'll say out. The others, you'll just let me carry on. Okay. Who recruited you to join BOSA, Build One South Africa? Okay, I've asked this one about being on the other side of the media. I asked about Mbalula. I think you've kind of covered why politics and not business or stay in the media. She's been removed from the Daily Wire, and even the question would probably require me to give a story around who she is, at least to me and to the world. But Candace Owens was on the Daily Wire, which was co-founded by Ben Shapiro and another gentleman, I forget his name. And she's left, or she was fired. It depends on who you're reading. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on Candace, just as a person, because she's become a very vocal, very powerful, very intelligent representation for Black women in particular in politics around the world. Your thoughts on Candace outside of her removal. Your thoughts on Black female politicians not being taken seriously and being used as fodder for votes and ticking equality boxes, which you find even with the leading party, where even their best chance at a female president, being Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, at some point fell flat. We have Naledi Pandor today. We have Lindiwe Sisulu as well. We've had many others come and go, but we've never had a strong Black female candidate in politics. We had Umama Dr. Rampele,
yeah,
who founded Ahang. Ahang became nothing, even when she tried to work with Helen Zille as well. But it looks like they used as fodder, and it could be a concern. And again, this would probably have a long answer as to huge respect for Mmusi Maimane. We've sat with him as well. I think we have a very favorable relationship but we need to make sure we have diversity. Don't bring another guy, don't bring a Michael Beaumont like Herman Mashaba at action. Bring a black woman. We need black women at the... And it's like, do you really take them seriously? And if ever it was challenged, if yourself or Nobuntu were proven to be better leaders with Mmusi, would he step aside? Would whoever other stakeholders at BOSA step aside? Would you guys break away? And one of the questions, well, I wanted to hear your thoughts on Nobuntu as a person. Why are women not building strong political parties on their own? It seems like politics is still a very male-dominated, and in particular, black male-dominated space. We had Lindiwe Mazibuko, who was introduced to us through the DA, who left. Phumzile van Dam, same. We've got Naledi Chiro at the EFF. Of course, there was Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. We had Mandisa Mashego, who was also at the EFF. Yourself now, and so many others. We have Ukoko, Helen Ziller. We have Patricia DeLille at Good. Can women not come together and build a very powerful political party that can contest? Are women always going to be used as fodder? But we've got 50%, 51% female representation. But most of those women, you can see, they don't have substance. They don't speak. And even when they do speak, they're almost used, to quote what was said about Mmusi Maimane, are used as an experiment as well, where when they no longer serve a purpose, they also get chucked to the side, like so many have been done before. I've got a couple of others, but I think I'll stop there.
Okay. I need to provide context again. Yeah. When Maguza, one word answers, it's not going to work for us. I knew of Mmusi since high school. We went to the same high school, different years, right?
Which school is this?
Ellen Glen High.
Shout out to Ellen Glen.
And shout out to Ellen Glen High School.
I need to give a shout out. 2 of my kids, their mom went to Ellen Glen at some point in her life.
Shout out to your
before she went to another school.
Your kid's mom. Yes.
Thank you.
Shout out. So went to Ellen Glen, heard of the legend of Mmusi. He had left, I think, a year prior to my arrival, right? When I got into the school in grade 9. But I heard of this dynamic leader who was active even then, who was just such a unifying force, who was just like this visionary person, etc. When I reached matric and became deputy head girl, he returned to, yes, I needed to, like, because
let him know.
But he came back. He came back and he gave this, speech, a motivating speech of how we ought to lead and how we ought to conduct ourselves. That's when I, had a first time encounter with him. Then obviously grew up in the same neighborhood. Our paths crossed in terms of the work that he's done, the work that I've done, etc. But Mmusi always spoke to me as a professional, because when we really got to know each other, it was when Ayanda was a news anchor and Mmusi was in politics, and we would, share interviews, etc., and, lighthearted moments here and there. But never, ever was there an idea that we would work together. Sure. So when they started One South Africa at the time and were going on the ground to get a sense of what people wanted, Mmusi and Nobuntu were integral in all of that. And I don't even want to say 50-50 because, sometimes it can be 60-40 in Nobuntu's favor, and other times it's 60-40 in Mmusi's favor. So important was their partnership, and so crucial were both of their roles that sometimes I don't even feel a need to inform Mmusi on anything. And this is just on my daily operations as head of comms. I'll call Nobuntu directly and say, sis, we need to organize this. How far are the t-shirts, etc., etc. And she'll be the one who take the decision. Mmusi's answering calls, he's in interviews, he's leading, he's having discussions on the side. And here's the person who I can speak to at that point. And if she's not available, I speak to Mmusi. For me, the role of Nobuntu in this organization is that serious. Yeah. It's that intentional, it's that deliberate. At no point did I think we are because we need a woman who's there. Yeah. No point at all. In fact, Mmusi then came to Bukhobami Youth Center, I think twice or something like that. He tells me, this is what we're doing. I invited him to speak to the kids, motivate, you are from a guy, etc. He does that, he tada, all those kind of things. The kids love him. They're like, Mmusi, photos. He's a celebrity wherever he goes. He's a politician, but people love him. And then he says to me, I want you to meet this woman, Unobuntu. She's amazing. I look her up. I'm like, my kind of people. She's having a woman's commission She's gathering women of different backgrounds, different age groups, different political affiliation, different religious beliefs, different sectors of society where they're creating impact. And then he says to me, speak to her. Maybe, you and her can connect over Bukhobami. That's when I met Nobuntu. I met Nobuntu because of Mmusi. Now I want to tell you about the power of women coming together and working. When I met Nobuntu, I almost forgot that there's a Mmusi Maimane also who's part of Build One South Africa, because she became an ally in the work that we do. Nobuntu and I would meet over the Women's Commission. She asked me, come and MC this event. I MC the event. She calls me for the second one. Please come and MC the second event. We're working now. We're making connections. There's a woman who's running a shelter, gupi. There's one with a feeding scheme. There's one who's in business. There's one. We're now cross-pollinating in terms of ideas. Absolutely important for us if we're going to move the dial and start to see a change in society. Thereafter, Nobuntu sits down with me and she says, I think you should be involved in Build One South Africa. I really think there's space for you here. And I say to her, but I'm in the same
now
view.
That you insist.
Girl, I didn't want to be on something. Oh, please make the circle bigger. I want to be part of this. But there is so much synergy. And for me, one of the things that influenced me more than just the work that was happening and the fruit thereof, you could see it, was the character, the conduct of the leaders, the duo of Nobuntu and Mmusi. The yes is yes. The no is no. The heart for the people. And I sometimes wish that you would see them the way I see them every day when we encounter. I mean, we went to Dobsonville with Mmusi the other day. It's a door-to-door. We're meeting people. We're signing membership forms, etc. We go to the houses. I didn't realize that he saw what we were seeing. At the end of the door-to-door, we're expecting a high five. Oh, I see etc. He stood there and he said, there's a problem with the breakdown of families in South Africa. I knew that was a leader I can follow. He said, did you notice that the houses that we went to, abantwana, where are the dads? Where are the moms? At one house, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning. There's a bottle of beer. You can tell there was no food here. There was just klakantsuke. Young girls. Siyaba saying, hi, awukwazi ukusayinisa nje uphuma uhambe. Start conversation. Hey, what's up? What are you guys doing? Hey, man, join us on Saturday. Gupi. You're trying to build relationships that will influence society better. He noticed that. That's, for me, is the reason why I'm here. And Nobuntu can go to Beatrum's looking cute because Ugal Agadal. Looking cute, stilettos, all of those things.
Always snatched.
She's not playing around. But when there's a need to stop and talk to someone, even without the cameras there, speaking to someone, talking to all those things. Hard. And I know they'll say, it's election season. Of course, people are going to do this. They do them with their cameras. If you do that kind of thing and there are no cameras and there's nobody who is taking visuals, etc., you know the heart of the person. So for me, it speaks to why I'm here, the conduct, the character of the individuals that I have chosen to serve and serve with and serve through is what made it important. Then we speak about the role of women in politics.
Before you speak about the role of women, Build One South Africa over potentially the Democratic Alliance or Action SA or another one is because of the alignments you've made, the links. Went to the same school, we met here, we did this. I'm asking if you'd gone to the same school with Herman,
remember,
if you had been recruited by the Democratic Alliance.
I have met all the political party leaders. Right? I had interviewed Zuma, sat down with him, seen Cyril, engaged with him. I mean, I was right there with the minister, Fikile Mbalula, while he was still minister. I had encountered Julius Malema. I had an interview with him, met some of his team, etc. All lovely people. I mean, I have nothing against them personally, right? But for me, I need to have a connection.
Sure.
With
but they also
person.
never invited you.
Yeah, of course, they've not invited me, but it also it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I went there and I was like, Chola, I feel like I want to get involved in ANC.
He was going to tell you about the structures.
Maybe I'm arrogant. I don't know. Maybe I'm arrogant. But I mean, you would say structures or try this or try that. I don't know. I've never gone to knock on the door of EFF to say, hey, let me MC, one of your events. I don't know. And then who knows, it could be because there was an opportunity here. But I had interfaced. Remember, I MC all the time, government events. I MC private sector events, not short of opportunities. And in fact, I think that's very important, which is where I was going to go to next. Until you find a situation where women, and I guess also men in this case, go into politics, not out of necessity, because where else am I going to go? Who is going to hire me? I have no fallback plan, etc. Unless or until you have people who go into politics knowing good, I don't want any position that bad to the point where I'll compromise. Then you will always have people who will compromise their values, who will sell people out, who will change and be drunk with power and position, who will be proponents of masculinity, toxic masculinity, to the point where you can sing the praises of someone who's been found wanting when it comes to GBV and femicide. You know what I mean? So if you go in there as a woman, I'll use myself as an example, and you say, I want to make a difference. I want to make a change. I have a lot to learn, but I do believe I have something to contribute as well. But whatever happens, I know, Guti, whether politics doesn't work or it works out, I am not going to be hungry. My children will eat, and I will have a roof over my head. I have studied. I can go back to work. I can go back to school. I can ply my trade elsewhere. I'm here because I want to, and I'm here because I believe in the vision of building one South Africa. When you have women who are in such positions, who are able to have agency, and who are able to have control over their life in this way, they're able to control their voices. My voice, and I believe the voice of Nobuntu and many other women in Build One South Africa, is not determined by the outcome of these elections. And my future is not in the hand of any man who will then say, if you keep quiet on this gender-based violent front, I'll make sure I give you this position, etc. And I think that's the same with all the women at Build One South Africa. We can stand on our own. And whatever happens in the political spectrum, we will not fall apart and disappear into nothingness. And because we have that firm foundation, call it upbringing. I know Nobuntu's mom is incredible. Her dad passed away when she was relatively young. Call it my own background as well, when my mother taught me that there is nothing in Aklula. My father gave me that affirmation and that love. I have the support of my family. I know that come what may, no matter what happens where I'm going, I can have the boldness and the fortitude and the wherewithal to speak the truth. And I can do that because I need dingy to eat in politics. Right? I need dingy to survive. I'm here because there is something within me that is burning for us to serve this country. That's the same with all the women. So when you have women in other political spectrums whose future is determined by a man who's at the helm, whose livelihood is determined by the way Congress will go, or caucus will go, or I don't know what it's called when they sit together, BGM, the outcome of the BGM directly impacts on whether or not my kids can go to school. Or the lifestyle that I have built can only be sustained by kickbacks that I get because I'm in a political position. When your entire personhood or somebodyness, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would say, when your somebodyness is determined by a man who's at the helm, who can give out favors, there's no way you're not going to compromise. Because you know what, for me to eat, for me to live, for me to breathe, for my children to go to school, etc., is determined by this man. So mabati valumlomo wako thula mntwanami sidla ngayo le ndoda uzothula. But when you know, go to me, I know the capacity I have and the direction of my destiny is not determined by anybody in this place. And if this doesn't work, God forbid, I still will wake up in the morning and work. If you know that and you need to stand up and say, Lawyer Joncha, you can say it. And you need to stand up and say, no, sorry, that one is politically incorrect. You can say it. And you need to stand up and challenge leadership sometimes wherever, even within your ranks. You'll be able to do that if you know that your somebodyness is not at the hands or in the hands of any other person. And I have seen that the women in Build One South Africa have stood up, and that they know that they're not in politics because they're hungry. They're in politics because they believe they can make a difference.
Yeah. I get feel, Baba. One of the things I like about you guys is we're starting to see Mmusi, Nobuntu, yourself, potential people that are going to sit on the seats for votes. Whereas some of these new political parties, we're not really sure if they were to get seats who would sit there.
And you know, Pen, you spoke about something that's quite important. I think we're in it for the long haul, my guy. We're in it knowing that 2024 is not the be all and end all. There are still very, very, very important elections coming up in 2026. Those are crucial because they deal with bread and butter issues. Parliament, that's my heart.
Sure.
That's my heart. And I'm of the view that you need to get your most qualified people in the country at local government level. That's the core face of service delivery. That is where we determine whether there'll be water, whether there'll be refuse removal, whether there'll be potholes that are fixed. The quality of life that we enjoy in South Africa is in the hands of those who are at local government level. And we are doing a gross disservice to the country by the kinds of people that we choose to occupy those positions. All of them who are there, dare I say all, maybe the vast majority of them dream of going to province or national because they look at local and they think, but it should be the other way around.
Sure.
It should be the other way around. You should have doctors, lawyers, you should have academics, you should have community leaders, all those kind of people who have capacity, yearning to be on the ground to serve. So I think that's something that's so important. And for Tina's Build One South Africa, we're not short-sighted. Yes, 2024 is important, but it is not the be-all and end-all. Our sights are set firmly on 2026. And I personally gave about one by one, 2026. And we're hoping that also going past that as well in the next elections, we would have proven our muscle as a political party and our longevity and staying power.
Mmusi says you guys are going for 2 million votes on the 29th of May 2024. That would make you the third biggest party in the country, because the EFF in 2019 as the third biggest got 1.8 million. You also, well, I know it's the party stance. You also on that same line?
Absolutely.
Because you're saying 2026, boy. We're going to work now.
Absolutely.
But forget now. Let's focus on...
Now is in the bag, is what I meant. Now is in the bag. And I
sweet
tell you this,
politician
let me tell you this. On the eve of our announcement that we qualify for the IEC's processes in order for us to appear on the ballot, everyone had written us off, Pen.
Sure.
I got calls from other political parties saying, as singakuzama, awukho bed, awukho interested. I won't divulge now because sohlangane parliament, banga reject ipili yethu because no, honestly, but our shame. Sibona but you're deciding the future of Maruzamile, Markeli, as you know, you tried. Let's talk. And I respect that because we are going to have to coalesce at some point, in the future. So we do need to have open lines to other political parties so that we can work together. We need to be able to work together if we're going to better serve the people of this country, unless we have an outright majority, which as we're looking at now, we're probably going to come in as a strong opposition, but not outright. There can be miracles, but we're focused on the 2 million votes that we're looking for. So we understand that fully. But when we were then telling people that we're going to make this announcement, people did not believe that we could make it. People did not believe that we would appear on the ballot.
Sure.
We proved beyond reasonable doubt that not only did we make it on the ballot, we're contesting across the country. This new political party that people had looked down on and thought that this is not going to get very far. Not only did we get far, we're going even further. Our structures on the ground are solid. Our support base is growing. We are on the ground. We are in the air. We are doing all that we need to do to garner those votes. It is possible. It is achievable. And stranger things have happened. I mean, you spoke about the rise of the EFF. We look now and there's so many other different parties that are there. That long queue, political parties that were hundreds long has been whittled down to what, 50? Is it 56? The number escapes me right now.
On the ballot?
50 something to that effect. And then you have your independents that are there as well. So what I'm saying is that it is possible. That's what we're going for. We're not entertaining anything less than that.
56. It's a good number.
Please
I know the IC has
me.
got 360 something registered.
Yeah, just double check that fact for me as well, please.
No, I'll do so. I've asked Mmusi, we've sat down twice and I asked him the same question and homework ya Mmusi ayisuka. Akayenzi homework. Have you seen a...
Let
no,
it's
order. Just a joke. It's just a joke.
Order in the Penuel show.
It's just a joke. Have you ever watched a movie called Get Out?
I haven't.
Daniel Kaluuya? Directed by Jordan Peele?
No.
I gave context about the movie and I want to use this reference considering that we were both at the BizNews conference in Hermanus in the Western Cape where, Marcus Jooste decided to end his life because that was where he was based. And then a week after we left, he decides, I'm done with the Steinhoff thing. I'm out. And he took his life. So there were maybe 400 people there. Of the 400, there were maybe 10 black people there, of which we were some of them. We made the cut. Hey.
I don't know if that was such a good thing.
We made the cut.
But talk to me.
Chosen blacks.
The chosen frozen. Mm-hmm.
So in the movie Get Out, quick synopsis. Black guy dating a white girl. They're going to visit her family, white family, in some farm somewhere. Fast forward to the end of the movie and it comes out that this white family is part of some program or some project that the grandparents have set up where they find able-bodied black bodies. That these old white people who are society, who are a group, they take these bodies, they take out the brains, and then they put in the brains of the old white people. And then they carry on existing in these young black bodies. Jordan Peele is a brilliant director and he explains all the nuances of the movie. It's a brilliant, brilliant movie for people to watch. But because of that movie, which is now a cult classic, whenever I'm in spaces with a lot of white people, and especially a lot of old white people, and Tony Leon called Mmusi Maimane a failed experiment. You look at Nelson Mandela and what he became, especially for the white population. You look at what Herman Mashaba might be seen as in the white population. You look at Cyril Ramaphosa and what he might be seen as in the white population. You get this feel in certain spaces that these old white people with their ideals and their visions are constantly looking for like the next black project. You speak so well. I'd vote for you. You're so amazing. English. And you're like, so what do you think about Israel and Palestine? What do you think about Russia and Ukraine? But that Julius Malema, hey? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, I really like you.
You're not like the other guys.
You're not like the other guys. So I obviously got that sense then, but luckily, I'm getting more comfortable in these spaces with old white people. Political parties need to get funded in this country, and most of the people that are willing to fund them are rich white people. For obvious reasons, they still own a bulk of the economy and they have the bulk of the money. Mmusi Maimane, unfortunately, derogatorily so, was called what he was called. But a lot of people in this country, black, white, colored, Indian, a lot of rich white people still were like, we think this guy's actually really got something and maybe just needs to be repackaged. And I worry, and I'm not the only one, I worry about Build on South Africa being a new project to preserve certain aspects of the incumbents retaining their privilege and to say, look, it'll take a while and maybe let's diversify. Let's put a bit of money in Mmusi and Build One, Abo Nobuntu. Let's see if Cyril can still do something. Let's put some money in Herman, We like them as mayor. Look, doesn't really get along with certain people, but we like him. And Michael Beaumont is there, so it's chilled. And there's this new upstart guy, kind of like him as well, Songezo Zibi, who's now getting about 15 million from the Oppenheimer family.
And your bestie, Gayton.
Gayton, still early days, but I'm speaking more about the black guys who speak well, who are, and because of the space, like I said, that we're in, do you ever think about those things? So outside of political speak, outside of promoting the party, outside of the elections, you are you tick the right boxes. You're born in Soweto. You know, you have the right values, Christian values. You know, your parents were there. Me and my sisters, you know, my children. Sounds amazing. And now, what if what we actually needed was like a black female? Okay, we had Lindiwe, but kind of didn't work there. Dr. Mampela, maybe she was a bit old. Maybe let's also diversify some of our eggs and put them in young black females and see what they could do for us. Maybe they might be married to a white guy. Maybe they don't mind. A Candace Owens, for example, is an example of a black woman that's married to a white man. And let's see how it goes. But we need to diversify. As a rich white South African who's benefited from colonialism, apartheid, and the ANC government, I'm like, I need to in future preserve my family's interests. And it may not
proof yourself. That's what they say.
It may not look the way we want, but let's invest and let's diversify. And we're maybe not going to find one Nelson Mandela. We may find 10 Nelsons and the female versions to preserve our interests. Do you ever think about those things and being used by certain people to push certain agendas, and all you want to do is serve? But there are more sinister people at the back who are like, to be honest, we don't care. We'll sign whatever check you need, as long as you're going to go arm wrestle and fight with and debate and outsmart the other guys, the Jacob Zumas and the Julius Malemas and communists. So disgusting.
You've been around those circles a little bit too long.
So Ayanda's amazing. You should hear. She's brilliant. Do you ever think about those things just as an individual? I'm
gonna speak a little bit about the conference. Firstly, shout out to Alec, who had interviewed me on Biz News and on Merit. I like to think said you may find this conference engaging for you. There'll be lots more to dig into and lots more for you to unpack. We're extending an invitation, and I'm grateful for that.
Alec and I went to the same high school.
Oh, you did?
High school, Newcastle High School.
So thank you so much to the team. It was your second time there at Biz News, ne? Was your second time there?
Yeah,
Ben?
I was there for their tenure.
All right.
In conjunction with the EFF's tenure that they were celebrating. Because Alec was at MoneyWeb. He built MoneyWeb, got listed, then he built Biz News. So I was there amongst. Pen, nice to see you again. I'm like, hey. Hey, how are you?
It was my first time there. And
Shame. Welcome to the circle.
No, I have to provide context. Pen. I went to school with white people. A multiracial school, former Model C school. All my life, from preschool, primary school, high school, varsity. And I'm saying this to let you know that I'm no stranger to white people. You asked me, I think the first elephant in the room was about my ex. I was married into a white family. Wonderful white family that did incredible work in their community in Magaliesburg, socioeconomic development, psychosocial assistance, also played their part in the anti-apartheid struggle. Amazing human beings. I spoke to you about my sister, also married into a white family. It sounds like a cliche, but some of my best friends are white. Hey. Right? So I say all of this to say, I am very familiar with white people. I have worked with white people. I've built friendships and relationships with white people. All my life, I have crisscrossed and interacted with white people. But in all my life, I have never, ever, ever been exposed to whiteness as I was when I went to Hermanus. And what do I mean? White people are not the problem. White people are not the problem. I know incredible white people. Funny white people, loving white people, kind white people with whom I can have conversation and we can work together and build together. The problem is not white people. The problem is whiteness. Whiteness is an ideology. Whiteness is a superiority complex. Whiteness is a stronghold. Whiteness is a spirit that lords it over all other races and is of the view that when Jesus died and went to heaven, he left white people in charge.
Amen.
That's whiteness.
Hallelujah.
Whiteness is the view that white people are the standard, that they are the benchmark, that they are the aspiration to which all people must aspire. That blackness or anything other than whiteness is only safe and okay in as much as whiteness deems it to be. That the closer you are to whiteness, maybe because of the color of your skin, your accent when you speak, where you stay, your mannerisms, that is what is approved. Whiteness is what we as black people practice when we say, oh, if you're reserved or maybe you're just a little bit more quiet, they say, no, you think you're white. Or if you've got money and there's a parking attendant showing you where to park, he says, Wozangam, come my white man, come my white man. That's whiteness. Not to be confused with white people. Whiteness, however, can be synonymous with white privilege, right? We went to school with a teacher who practices whiteness who'll say, why are you guys shouting at each other? You're right next to each other. That's whiteness. Whiteness is when your parents even, burn your scalp to try and get your hair to look like whiteness. Or you put a jersey, which is what we used to do in primary school. You put a jersey on your head and you run and you do this because now your hair must move because it's closer to whiteness. Whiteness is that strong man that makes it impossible for any other race to work together with white people towards a common end, because they will always see themselves as the big brother, as the authority and the superior one among people, not to be confused with white people. Now, in South Africa, you have both. You have white people who are looking to build, white people who are ready to work with whoever, as long as you make this country work, because they understand that our goals and objectives are one. Then you have whiteness who are hell-bent on lording it over the entire country, who see corruption not as a function of a corrupt individual, black or white, but who see corruption as synonymous with blackness. And that's one of two reasons why I find it difficult to have faith in the ANC government, because they have made us have to apologize wherever we go as black people, because we are automatically by default seen as corrupt and in favor of the ANC government because of the way in which they treated the country. We gave them the country, look what they've done. So now as a black female professional in any of the spaces that I go to, I have to know that I enter that space on a deficit because of my blackness that is synonymous with corruption. That is one of the unforgivable sins of the ANC government, in my humble opinion. The second one, we'll talk about at a later stage. And so when you go to Biz News, you have those who are progressive, who want to work, who understand that I will choose the most ethical leader, the one who is able to unite us all around a common cause to build this country. And those are the people that Mmusi, Maimane and Build One South Africa are willing to build with. We're not going to put together a party that is based on color lines or race, because that will get us nowhere. But equally, we're not going to work with people who exercise whiteness or white privilege and want to come and dictate what happens and what doesn't happen in this political party. You would have seen recently on social media that we went on a drive to raise funds where we were asking people, hey, crowdfunding, etc., etc. We've lost sponsorship. We've lost donors based on our principles to say this is what we believe in, this is what we don't believe in. And that conversation you can take up with Mmusi, because I'm not privy to what happens in that space. But I can tell you now for free that we've lost those white people who subscribe to whiteness and white privilege and who come to dictate and who come to stamp their authority that is ill-gotten and that is ill-advised. We do not subscribe to that. But for all South African, and I believe they're in the vast majority, who just want to get on with it, who just want to work, who don't care if, my child's best friend is Jabu or Tabo or Tasman or whatever. Those are the white people that we're willing to work with. And by the way, colored, Indian, across the spectrum, those are the people that we want to work with as Build One South Africa. But for those who want to come with a superiority complex and lord it over us because of the color of their skin, unfortunately, this is not the vehicle that will take them into the destiny that they so desire. And I think I speak not only for Build One South Africa, but for myself as an individual. I will be very difficult to manage if you try and manage me and say, I'm going to throw money at Ayanda. There is nothing that I need that can excite me. I don't wear Louis Vuitton. I don't own a Louis Vuitton. I don't own, I don't know, what are the expensive things? I don't. Give me money, I take it to Dobsonville to work with my kids there at the center. I have children for days. I listed them out to you. My priority is to get them to school, etc. All my kids are in your either entry-level private schools that are like former Model C schools, etc. Live in the West Strand and Roodepoort. I don't stay in Sandton. I don't eat caviar. I don't do those things. I'm myself. And so if you think we're going to throw money at her and that's what's going to corrupt her, think again. If I'm able to walk out of a high-paying job, guys, working for the Minister of Transport was cush. It was lavish. Ne? Well, by certain standards. But where you go and you say, I speak for the minister, people are like, oh, okay, let's move things. But if you're able to say, on a matter of principle, I'm good. No fight, no disagreement, I walk. Morning Live, I was never fired. Never fired. I decided I've learned what I need to learn from Morning Live. I want to go and take on new frontiers. It's my time to go. Left. Everywhere that I went, never fired, never had a fallout even that led me to leave anyway. I always believe at the back of my mind that, I don't know, some my friends say you think you're related to Patrice Mutsipe when you've got money for days. It's not there, but I like to think that I'm always going to be taken care of. I'm always going to be fine. It's a combination of my upbringing and my faith in God. So there is no way that you can corrupt me in that sense by saying, we're going to throw this at you. I've left promising prospects, promising relationships even, promising encounters where the people can say, you don't leave here because there's affluence, there's wealth, etc. There's nothing I want that bad that I can say I'm going to compromise everything. Luckily, I've not been approached where people are saying, let's throw money at you so that you can be the next project. If it is to come, I feel sorry for them because it's just not going to work. But never say never. I surround myself with people who will always call me out to say, sissy, it's you this now. I surround myself intentionally with people because I'm human. I'm flawed, you know. Who knows that 2-3 months from now, once you get to Parliament, all of a sudden I don't speak isiZulu, I don't speak isiXhosa. I'm too high to come to Penn's show. I'll surround myself with people like King who can call me to order to say, hey, not here.
Sure.
This is a revolutionary house, right? So I surround myself with people always who will call me to order, who will check me. I still have the friends I had before I even had a child. I still keep the friends that I can talk to and laugh with no pretense. You won't see me taking pictures of, I'm here. Only pictures I put on social media are work related. You won't see me wearing, I don't know how much expensive bags cost. That's just not me. That's just not me.
So in Hermanus,
I was shook.
Confronted by whiteness.
Shook. For days. Shook.
As someone who's traveled the country, met a lot of people, would you say that most white people suffer from whiteness?
I think many of them are prone to, right? They have the potential to suffer from it. A lot of them don't, but there's always a possibility of watching the news and thinking all of them, which means all these black people want to steal, or having an encounter with a rude or arrogant cashier, which is usually would be black on black violence, but then think all of them are the same. And I think it's high time that they are educated and educate themselves to understand that, hey, there are black people who don't like what's going on in the country, who don't like the current government, who also are just as affected and just as annoyed by load shedding as we are, and who are suffering as a result of water shortages, etc. And they're black, and it's along the color spectrum, right? So, and I think when people understand that we're not going to vote on color lines, we don't all support ANC because we're black, right? And we're not all corrupt because we're black. And they will then say, no, Tina, we collude in the private sector, but the Africans in government are corrupt.
They're looting.
They loot, but looting also, Steinhoff was looting also.
No, it was accounting irregularities.
Right? So for me, I think it comes to a point where people can educate or should educate themselves to know what it means to carry the legacy of apartheid the way in which we have. And we also don't want to be turning around every 2 minutes and crying about it. We don't, right? But there are structural things that should have been addressed by now, because we also must also take, responsibility for our own goals, but that are a legacy that needs to be addressed. For example, in our psyche, like I said, in our psyche, whiteness has taught us that there's everything wrong with being non-white even. That was a label that was given, not even just being black. So for example, in our songs that we sing at a wedding, there's the song, Twang, 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 Limon Ngwana o tshwana le colored. The bride is so beautiful, she looks colored. Oh, she's so beautiful, pretty. She's so close to whiteness, those are things that we need to deal with, because we ourselves as Black people, and this is what Miko was speaking about, we've been so indoctrinated that our default is to think that white is better. You know, our default is to think that if you go into and I had these real life experiences where I was going to a friend's house and the then partner was white, and the friend tells the mom, "Oh, mom, Ayanda's coming with so and so." In my house, oh my gosh, the white person has come to my house. Is everything okay, guys? Let's fix this, etc., etc. You know, whereas my own mom as well, because of the upbringing that she had, would go around, and it was an accomplishment to have daughters who are married to white people. It was like a degree. Huh? It was like, it was huge. Like she would carry whenever people would ask, "Oh, how are your daughters?" "They're fine. They're married to white people."
It's your claim to fame.
It's your claim to fame. And that's a psychological thing that we need to unlearn as a people. So when you say, no, forget about apartheid didn't do anything. And yet we're constantly seeing reminders of how we are excluded because of race. And if someone doesn't speak English with the twang that I'm using now, that person is automatically seen as an imbecile or someone who's unintelligible, or not intelligent. So I think it's important that we extend grace to one another, and we work with the group of South Africans who are white people, but who don't subscribe to whiteness, and Black people that don't subscribe to whiteness. Right? So I think that's very important. And that's where we are as Build One South Africa. We're building with all South Africans who want to build a better South Africa, irrespective of the color line, regardless of your LSM, etc. If you want to build, that's where we want to go. But if you're still saying, "Oh no, white is right, Black is whack," if you're still saying we want to build our little enclave in, the beach where we are free from government and its effects, we're going to state-proof ourselves. Everything is going to be privatized. We're going to just build high walls and exclude everybody else. Let me tell you, if Black people who are in their majority in the country, young Black people who are in the majority in South Africa, young Black men who are unemployed and who are in the corners and who are not receiving the help, if those people are not attended to and addressed, and there's no redress for them now, there is no high wall that can keep them out from the destruction that will be caused in this country. So it is in your best interest as a white person who's practicing whiteness even. It is in your best interest that you get onto the bandwagon of building one South Africa for all, so that you and your children who will be trading and having an economy here in South Africa can do so peacefully. We all just want harmony. Nobody wants to be angry at all times. Nobody wants to fight at all times. We all want to get on with it. We all want peace and harmony. An enclave where you privatize everything is not the solution, but equally antagonizing white people and blaming white people and saying those who are well-meaning, but they're part of the problem, that's not going to solve anything. We need to all say, okay, what do we want? You want a peaceful country. You want a country that is progressive. You want a country that's able to harness its resources, tap into its potential and unleash greatness. How can we all work together? Pen, what do you bring? I bring skills. Great. What do you bring? I bring capital. What do you bring? I bring infrastructure. What do I bring, etc. Let's build. That's what we're about now. But if you're still going to sit in your corner and say, no, but I want to influence and put, it's going to find you at a very, very difficult place when this project starts to move. We're building.
You don't think the people you're speaking about are a serious minority in this country? Non-racialists, focus on character, just want to build. And in that question, I want to ask, you didn't really give me a direct answer. So I'm going to rephrase. Do you think most white people are willing to sacrifice their white privilege for the benefits of the greater country?
I think a lot of them don't know they have white privilege. I think a lot of the problem, yes, they are, I wouldn't say in the minority. I would say it's 50-50, if not 60-40, those white South Africans. Remember when I started this, I said, white people are not the problem. Whiteness is the problem, or white privilege is the problem. White people in this country, some of them are genuinely shook, like they're confused. They don't know, why are you so angry? I also have to work to get my child to go to university. Yeah. I also have to struggle to put food on the table. I also don't like load shedding. So they literally are confused. Why do we keep saying white privilege? Why do we keep saying whiteness? It's ignorance, because they don't understand. When we say white privilege or whiteness, we speak about the psychosocial and socioeconomic benefit that white people derive just by being white. By entering a room, they are assumed to be more intelligent than the black. By going into any public space, they are given that much more respect by the average black person by virtue of the fact that they are white. When they go into a church, a black church, and they are late, automatically whoever's sitting in the front must stand up for the white person to sit in. That is what we mean by white privilege. It is by associating anything that is close to whiteness as better than black. So if they can understand what it means to have that white privilege, they will understand and exercise with the power that they have with their privilege accordingly to say, now I need to sit back.
Do you think they would sacrifice that?
I think if they knew. I think if
they
understood.
would sacrifice that?
I think if they understood, at least
if
maybe
I knew what
wishful.
Zulu privilege was and what it means to be umZulu.
Walking
around, baba, ngithi mina ngithola uShaka Zulu la, you think I'd want to sacrifice that?
We need to also talk about Zulu privilege at some date. But I think if they understood how it would work to their advantage, if they sacrificed it, they would. If they understood the correlation and how all the dots connect. Remember, those who are happily exercising whiteness without a care in the world and who are not interested in any way, shape or form with amalgamating the rest of the country, they are the ones who, the vast majority of them own the means of production. They are moneyed to kingdom come, right? The third, fourth, fifth generation is sorted out. They have no interest in building this country. So they have no interest in buying into this, one South Africa that we're building. At the moment, at least, they don't have interest. But then the vast majority who we're working with in your office blocks who are living next to them in the community, if they would understand how your white privilege is hampering our collective growth and development. But if you were to cede some of it in exchange for these freedoms that you want, in exchange for this safety and security, in exchange for this economic growth, I feel that there could be a compromise that could be reached. The problem, again, as I said, is not necessarily the color of the skin. It's not necessarily white people. The problem is whiteness that goes with white people, or the white privilege that goes with the white people. And if white people could understand that here's the privilege that I have, this whiteness that I inherit, that is not something that I worked for or even that I can, shrug off. It just is what it is. And it doesn't matter whether you're middle class or you're poor white South African who is struggling to make ends meet because of the color of your skin. There is this white privilege that comes with that. If they can understand that and learn to, how do we navigate that space? How do we, as white people, not subscribe to it, but use whatever privilege we have to the betterment? Remember at the opening also of this conversation, I spoke to you about my privilege. And I conceded and I said to you, I have privilege. I never had to struggle for food when I was growing up. I never had to wonder where my mom or my dad were. I never had to wonder about education. And because of that, I have a responsibility. I have a duty to society, right? Because of the way in which I speak, because of the way that I look, because of the doors that it opens, I have a responsibility to, when I've opened that door, go back and look through Bukhobami and say, Wozani bantwana bakithi, come, let's all go through this door. So if white people could also, and they have a much higher degree of privilege than I did, but if they can then understand the responsibility that they have towards this country and find a platform where they can exercise that responsibly, amicably to build the country, I believe that they would be willing to do so.
I'm scared to ask my next question.
Yes.
Are you not tired of talking? Hey, Yakhuluma Lusis, I said this at the beginning.
I did say I don't get tired of talking, but I think I lied, ne?
Are you tired of talking?
What do you want to say?
Are you tired of talking? So I must shut it down.
Do I have a choice whether or not I'm going to ask? I can answer the next question.
Some of the things I'd like to ask, I think maybe I'll park for the day I sit down with Ndlovu.
Yeah.
A drill down on, build on South Africa's thoughts on load shedding, the vision. I know I've spoken to Mmusi somewhat about it. Load shedding, potholes. Mmusi said something very, very disturbing. And again, maybe I'll park this for Ndlovu, even though it might trigger you, where he was speaking about the illegal immigrants, foreigners in this country, and his view of what we should do with them, which is contrary to what other people are saying, not contrary to what I believe, the naturalization and the legalization, and BOSA's stance on that. So we're going to shut it down, and I'm going to allow you to close. But I'll ask this question, because it's important to me, personally. Are you willing to compromise some of the aspects of whiteness that you've ingrained into your life? Do you believe in democracy? And if ever you believed in democracy and we were to fully allow people to voice what they want for South Africa and what they envision, you may find that on democratic lines, we'd have to become a Zulu country, and Zulu would have to be the language of general instruction in this country. The governance structures that Black people may prefer may be monarchs and not the political systems brought by the colonialists. The way we trade, the way we do business, the type of education and the way we pass education outside of the schooling structures, not speaking English, not living the way we do, not aspiring to the really amazing globalist ideas of what we think this country should be in the future. And we have people saying, no, we actually want to decolonize. And if we want to remove whiteness, yes, we can reimagine for the future, but it's going to have to do with identity, language, culture, different political, different legal, different correctional services type of structures. And it's going to mean most of the things that you think are the solutions are not, because those solutions, whether you like them or not, even if we're speaking money, still for many reasons bend to whiteness locally and globally. And whether you'd be willing to be like, if that's what it's going to take, I'm willing to let go. Or do you believe, no, I think I'm right. I think I'm right in my vision. I think I'm right with what we're trying to do. And if ever that's the case, what hope is there that the average white person would ever want to bend towards a more African-centered, Afrocentric way of living?
I think it would have to start with the vision that we all have for South Africa. There are those who are of the view that South Africa, and by extension Africa, would not have developed minus the arrival of white people in the country. And then people would quickly rebut that and say, no, but we had industry. We had the pyramids in Egypt. We had mathematics that was thriving there. We had our systems of governance. We had our ways of doing things. We had our own politics, right, that involved wars, that involved negotiations where we would marry off and have charters and treaties in that way. So, you know, there are people who say there was development in South Africa and by extension also the African continent. It maybe would not have looked like it looks now because of the external influence, but there was going to be a level of growth. And then there's another school of thought that says, what if white people had come but not to colonize, instead to partner, to barter, to trade, to share ideas, and to form mutually beneficial societies where we all coexist? Would we have developed to the level that we're in now? How would that have looked without having an oppressor and a kind of relationship, oppressor, oppressee, etc.? How would that have looked? I'm of the view that we're here now. We're here now, knowing that in and of ourselves, minus external influences, we had the capacity to develop, and we had the capacity to make something of ourselves as Africans. Also bearing in mind that, those who came into the country, in South Africa I'm talking now, did so, many of them with nefarious intentions, as opposed to coming to learn from us and us sharing with them as well. And this is where we are now. Years of struggle, not only apartheid, but even before then, colonization brought us where we are now. And those combined experiences, good, bad, evil, ugly, hurtful, destructive as they were, have brought us in a place of reckoning now, where we ask ourselves as South Africa, which direction will point us into the future that we want? Do we want to continue as a global player? Do we want to pursue positions in, whether it's G20, G8, etc.? Do we want to fight on that scale and say, let's industrialize fully? Let's use our capacity to dominate markets. Let's be players that are reckoned with across the world. That's how we want to measure success. Let's have the same story as China. Let's have the same story as Singapore, whatever, you name it. We have to have those conversations of what does success look like for this country? And if that is what success looks like, what do we need to do to get there? That's the first one. Then there are those who, like yourself, will say completely decolonize. Let's look inward. Let's maybe look at not only just South Africa, but intra-Africa trade. Let's shut the rest of the world out and focus on ourselves.
Not like me, sorry. It was just a question.
Oh, pardon me.
It's not my stance.
All right.
Sorry.
As per your view that you mentioned, let's focus on intra-Africa trade. Let's, forget the rest of the world and really build ourselves as a country, as a continent. Then we look at your import substitution. Let's make our own cars instead of importing things. Let's make our own, etc. And our success will just be in of ourselves and among ourselves. That is what success looks like. That's what the future looks like. Even if that's the case, we're still going to have to look at how do we build a child who's going to survive that kind of economy and thrive in that economy. What do we need to put down now in our education system to build a child who will have that kind of thinking, that kind of idea, that kind of working, together with others to fulfill that dream. So there are many ideas and ideals in terms of how to build the South African. That's for me where democracy comes in, because then we have to put it to a vote.
You believe in democracy?
I do believe in democracy.
Okay.
I believe that we ought to hear the voices of all who live in South Africa. And I think it works when it works. But when we leave it to those who we feel are corrupt or those we feel are the only ones who are bored enough to do this job, it will not work for us, because it will only continue to put in power those who society deems, just leave them, let's get on with it on our side as well. But I think if we then as South Africans wake up and decide to be active participants, who knows, if all the Zulus come out in their numbers and decide that we're going to vote, and we're going to vote for this particular person whose ideals are that Zulu is the official language, the one and only official language, we go back to monarchy, etc., that will be democracy in action. And it would be the rest of us who were not able to contest that view who would then be to blame for the situation that we find ourselves in.
You'd stay here.
With Zulus? No, Concha, my fiance is Zulu. I must be careful how I phrase it. Yes, I would.
Okay.
Remember, I think we don't have another South Africa to go to. You can travel the world, which I have. You can visit different parts of the country, not the country, the continent, which I have. But for me, I'm a strong believer in the magic that is South Africa, in the beauty that is South Africa. I believe it's worth fighting for. I believe it's worth coming around a table for and discussing what do we want? What do we want to see? And it's a contestation of ideas. If I'm a believer that Zulus should be predominantly the leaders here and the monarchy should be in place, if my ideas really are worthwhile, I should be able to convince others. I should be able to put a debate on the table and win the hearts and minds of this country such that I'm able to implement what I believe in. And vice versa, if I believe that we should be contesting in global stages and putting our position across as South Africa and owning the stage as your Trevor Noahs, as your Thuso Mbedus, as your Springboks, as your surgeons and doctors, etc., as lawyers, etc. If I'm of the view that that's the space that we should be playing in, then I ought to stand up as Build One South Africa to say, let's work towards achieving that. But if there are those who counter that view, then this is the democracy where they can express that and garner enough votes to change things.
Any closing remarks?
Build One South Africa. It's the only political party that will take you into the future that we all desire. That's a future that is peaceful, a future that is prosperous, a future where we can all benefit from the beautiful country that we call home. Build One South Africa with Mmusi Maimane.
Ayanda-Allie, thank you so much for joining us on the panel show. I had so many other things to say. We've been speaking for a long time.
I'm not coming
We're meant
back.
to be sick. But I appreciate you opening up to us, speaking about your family, speaking about your parents, your children, somewhat of a blended family, and everything else that has to do with politics. And your passion for this country it's really evident. And thank you. And I hope in whatever journey you take, you did say you don't last long in spaces. I don't know how long you'll be at Build One South Africa.
Minimum, I said 10 years. Minimum. That's my goal. Minimum.
I'm sure you said that by many other things that
No,
you decided
actually,
to
I
pursue
have
in your
not.
life. But we will not go there. Outside of whatever journey you pick, I hope you always go back to serving humanity, which I think is at the core of who you are. Using whatever vehicle. It could be politics, it could be NGOs, it could be in business, it could be using your voice. Maybe you'll have a podcast, whatever the case may be. Please don't stop serving, man. And please don't ever sell out to the little Ayanda that grew up at Dobsonville, because she's watching you. Every time you make decisions, she's like, yo, big sis, I'm waiting. You said you were going to do these things, and now you're coming with new things, and this is not what we planned, but just keep working for it. Thank you so much for coming through, and I look forward to hopefully sitting down with you again and thrashing out other issues as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure.
What's your name?
You know where I come from.